Very good. Very good.
You're fascinating to talk to.
At the country club here, they're passing notes and blue, talking party colors like they're overdue. The old brass on the wall keeps asking what went wrong, but the new crew smiles soft and hums a borrowed song. Now the table's turning slow with a polished, patient glow. Everybody in the room feels the courage start to grow. Communism Kool-Aid, sipping by the poolside. Communism Kool-Aid, say it with a straight face. Voters in the cool shade, passing cups around the parade. Communism Kool-Aid, and nobody knows what to say. Hillary's by the phone with a careful, worried look, reading every headline like a line she didn't book. She sees the banner shift, she hears the easy cheer, and the whole old playbook starts to fog up in the rear. Now the table's turning slow with a polished, patient glow. Everybody in the room feels the current start to grow. Communism Kool-Aid, sipping by the poolside. Communism Kool-Aid, say it with a straight face. Voters in the cool shade, passing cups around the parade. Communism Kool-Aid, and nobody knows what to say. The marina keeps on shining while the arguments roll on. One side calls it progress, one side says the game is gone, and the tide keeps washing in like it owns the whole boardwalk. Smile State magazine bright while the dinner circles tall. Communism Kool-Aid, sipping by the poolside. Communism Kool-Aid, say it with a straight face. Voters in the cool shade, passing cups around the parade. Communism Kool-Aid, and nobody knows what to say. On the surface, heavy underneath, gentle as a summer wave rolling underneath the teeth. Easy on the surface, heavy underneath, gentle as a summer wave rolling underneath the teeth.
And that's how the story of Fluffalo ends, with a happy old buffalo snuggling his friend.
Hundreds on the pavement, wheel lines in the dawn. Minneapolis waking, then they rode along. Monday talk hit hard like a match in dry grass. Words crossed the room fast and nobody took it back. 3 months till the vote, still the air turned black. The names got thrown around and they came right back. You can shout all day, you can paint that fear, but the crowd still sees what's really near. Ballot box fire, ballot box fire. You can't scare truth down. Ballot box fire, ballot box fire. We see through the smoke now. Democrats got dragged with a label and a sneer. Socialists, communists, same old drum in our ear. But the street outside got its own reply. Moms at the crosswalk, kids with sharp eyes. You can sell that storm, you can sell that blame, but the same old trick has a tired frame. Ballot box fire, ballot box fire. You can't scare truth down. Ballot box fire, ballot box fire. We see through the smoke now. Let the panic talk, let the headlines spin. People know a mask when it's stretched too thin. Not every loud mouth tells the whole damn room. Not every dark word turns the day to doom. Whoa, 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 whoa. Ballot box fire, ballot box fire.
Oh, very good.
You can't
Very
scare
good.
truth down. Ballot box fire, ballot box fire. We see through the smoke now. Monday talk fades out, but the vote still stands. Same old fear gets sold in the same old hands.
Join Center of the American Experiment on Saturday, September 19th for our 2026 fall briefing featuring Byron York. Byron York is the chief political correspondent for the Washington Examiner, but you probably know him from his frequent appearances on Fox News. York will give us an update on the race to control the U.S. House and Senate, and will show how Minnesota fits into the 2026 electoral map. Will President Trump beat the odds and grow his power in Congress? Or will Democrats take over and throw Washington into gridlock? Join us at the beautiful winery at Sovereign Estate to hear York's timely message. Plus, enjoy great views, conversation, and food and drink. Tickets are going fast, and we do expect this event to sell out. Get your tickets now at americanexperiment.org/events. That's americanexperiment.org/events.
The best part of waking up is knowing Kamala lost to Trump.
Tuesday has a feel, and welcome to the John Justice Show, presented by American Experiment. If you want to take part in today's broadcast, you can do that by dropping us a blast to 612-584-4565. Leave us an audio comment. We'll play those on the air. You can, of course, email john.justice@americanexperiment.org. We got a busy show today. Representative Tom Emmer will be joining us right at the end of the show. Right around 8:45, we will talk to Emmer about the SCOTUS ruling in favor of ballot integrity regarding President Donald Trump's executive orders, given the fact that the Senate has been incapable of passing the SAVE Act. So also we'll get Emmer's thoughts on Governor Jim Walz and his executive order. A lot of executive order talk his executive order on protecting, doing that thing with my fingers, the mines. And so Emmer joining us right around 8:45. This hour, I will get into the details of the SCOTUS ruling, as I just mentioned. Regarding mail-in ballots, what does it mean? Can this be implemented before the midterm elections? I'll have all the answers for you, or at least as best I can. We have a Iran update and some really good audio from Scott Jennings from his show yesterday that I want to share with you, because he's of the opinion that we've essentially won the war against Iran. And I'll let the audio speak for itself as he lays out his argument as to why that is the case. Also, we have an update on Mike Lindell and his primary recount efforts. So the money was due yesterday, almost $1 million, some $835,000, and he did not pay. And he is claiming that there are more illegal activities taking place when it comes to the state and the recount process. So we will get into that. It's kind of sad, actually. It is. It kind of makes me sad. It's a little on the pathetic side. So we'll get into that later on in the hour. We also have more Minnesota State Fair news, a couple days away from the start of the Minnesota State Fair. And Bill Glahn, senior fellow here at American Experiment, he actually did what I was incapable of doing yesterday. I was trying to articulate my views on the lawsuit regarding the potential gang activity coming up on Saturday, and I did not articulate that the way that I wanted to yesterday on the show. Thankfully, Bill Glahn came in with the save, because he nailed in this article that I'll share after 7 o'clock today. He nailed what I was thinking yesterday, but was incapable of articulating, and I blame Mondays. Producer Devin is with us this morning. Good to see Devin. Glad he's here, pushing the buttons today. And of course, like I said, I want to hear from you throughout the show. You can watch at MN Think Tank on X. You can watch on Facebook and YouTube at Center of the American Experiment, and my personal pages. Best option to listen to the show live, just the audio feed, is through the MixLR app. MIXLR, download that app. You can also get caught up on the podcast right there in the app. The podcasts are, of course, posted across all the social media, podcast platforms once the show is over. And the replay of the video portion of the show is also available on those platforms as well. I want to spend just a little bit more time talking about the America 250 Indy race that took place yesterday. I have a couple of audio clips because, as suspected, the left freaked out over this event, and it's taken about 48 hours for the controversies to sort of catch up. I also have some audio from the winner of the race on Sunday and one of the other podium finishers. And I'm going to label this normal people acting the way a normal person would in an abnormal situation of actually being able to go and meet the president. I remember when I was a kid, like, regardless of political party, regardless of whether or not you actually voted for the president or not, it used to be a thing in movies. It was a trope because it was the reality. It was a big deal to meet the president of the United States. Again, regardless of whether or not you voted for him. Now, of course, we are far removed from that, but leave it to IndyCar racers and also foreign IndyCar racers to go and do what we Americans are apparently incapable of doing, especially relating to Donald Trump and those on the left, of just having a sense of respect for the presidency, regardless of whether or not you agree with them. So, again, we'll share some audio of normal people acting the way a normal person would in kind of an extraordinary circumstance of meeting the president. Speaking of fast cars, though, I wanted to share this with you. Talk about a lonely highway theory. A driver was stopped in western Wisconsin traveling almost 60 miles per hour over the speed limit. I actually think he's being honest with his excuse. He said it was after a frustrating golf round. I mean, you don't say that if you're trying to get out of a ticket. You say that if that's exactly what happened. So the Barron County Sheriff's Office says that one of its deputies recently pulled over a driver traveling 114 miles per hour in a 55. I mean, that is flying. That's that type of speed as an average individual in just your regular average automobile where everything just begins to slow down. at that point in time. And if you hit anything and end up making some sort of course correction, you're kind of done for. I want to know what kind of car he was driving. It wasn't in the story. Describing him, according to the charges, describing him as imitating the nearby airplanes. The sheriff's office says he was asked why he was in such a hurry, and he responded by saying he had just left the golf course doing nothing with my fingers after playing a horrible round and quitting early because he lost a lot of his golf balls. While we can attest that golf can frustrate all, we still can't get on the same page of going over double the speed limit like that you just got home. Yes, said the sheriff's office. Next time, take the frustrations out on the driving range and not in the driving lane. Yeah, you know what? I've seen, I don't know if they've been doing 114 miles per hour, but I have multiple options here in Minnetonka to get home. And so sometimes I'll jump up and I'll get on 494 and I'll hop up to like 92 and all that. But like yesterday, you would have thought it was the Autobahn, man. And you see them coming from a mile away. I'm not even kidding. I'm in the middle lane. I'm doing over the speed limit in Monty. That's my car. I'm doing over the speed limit, not by a lot. Because there's a state patrol officer that hangs out. I see him at least a couple times a week right there, right? But there's usually a lot of traffic. So, if you're going with traffic, you're not really worried about it. And I can see this jackwagon in my rearview mirror in an SUV just coming flying up on my tail. And there's cars in both lanes. I'm like, dude, where are you going to go? What are you going to do? What's going to happen? And of course, what does he do? He ends up tailgating me for a certain period of time. I was in a good mood, though. I didn't go into Batman mode, which is typically what I would do. I let him go around me. I didn't let it get on me. I'm trying to be more patient. It's a slightly longer drive coming into here to center of the American experiment than what I'm used to dealing with. So since I'm on the road about 20 minutes longer every day when you do combined back and forth from home, I figured it was probably time that I make sure that I chill out just a little bit and not be worried about the cars around me. It's what I tell my kids, so I might as well practice what I preach, right? This article from Fox News, it's a bit of an editorial, is what I wanted to share with you, and then get to the audio from the America 250 Indy race from over the weekend. I talked about this yesterday with Andrew Langer, and it really was refreshing to see the level of respect from the broadcasters. And again, I'm not the biggest IndyCar fan. I've tried to get into it. I don't have a particular driver. I follow F1 and I like Lando Norris. It's kind of who I look at as the guy that I watch during the race, but I'm not like a hardcore fan like I am of, say, Alex Bowman in NASCAR. But I enjoy watching, some IndyCar, and I really enjoyed watching this race. But as I talked about yesterday with Langer, it was just great to see the announcers talking about just how prestigious it was. And how honored IndyCar was to be able to celebrate not only America's, 250th, but the fact that this race was taking place on the streets in Washington, D.C., in front of these national monuments, in front of these museums and the White House and the Capitol. This article here, let me share with you some of this editorial. They write in Fox News, what was that the most patriotic weekend of racing ever? We haven't felt that since NASCAR ripped the July 4th Daytona race from our hearts and put it in August. The guy's a big NASCAR fan, and NASCAR used to always have the 4th of July race in Daytona, and it was awesome. And unfortunately, they moved it. It's actually happening this weekend now. They moved it out of that July 4th spot. He goes on to say, I don't do this or say this often, but well done, IndyCar. That's right. I'm man enough to admit it. I'm not the biggest IndyCar fan. I'm not shy about that, but fair is fair. I thought the IndyCar absolutely nailed it this weekend in Washington, D.C. And yes, liberals, that means Donald Trump nailed it too. You can't really have one without the other after all. Trump said that Roger Penske, the motorsports titan, tried 211 times over the past 20 years to make this happen. Now, the article writer goes on to say, odd number, but I believe it. Trump never embellishes. By my count, this was the third big race that Trump's been to since returning to office, right? He was at the Daytona 500 last year. He was also been at the Coke 600. Sunday, he waved the green flag at IndyCar's Freedom 250, an event decades in the making. Rogers said they've been trying to do it for 20 years. This is what President Donald Trump told Fox News reporter Jamie Little. I think he told me they've been down about 211 times, but he came to see Trump, and I got it done in about 15 minutes. Now, the writer goes on to say, hilarious. I don't know if it's true, but it's funny. He goes third person, President Donald Trump, in his commentary to Jamie Little. Catches me off guard every time. Anyway, Kyle Kirkwood won, which wasn't surprising, given that he was the second odds-on favorite to do so. Folks quickly fell in love with him because he's just a normal, God-fearing American, which is becoming increasingly more difficult to find in sports. Looking at you, WNBA. Oh, also, there was a bald eagle in Victory Lane. Yeah, it was pretty cool, and of course Trump was showing off the beast in the pre-race ceremonies. So the guy that won had said, "I'm a Florida guy. I live in Jupiter, so it's cool to see him down here." Speaking to President Donald Trump. Now he says Kirkwood could have been talking about Trump, but he could have been talking about Tiger Woods. Who knows? Jupiter is quite an area, if you didn't know. In that moment, though, Kyle Kirkwood was actually pointing up to where the president and the first lady were seated watching the end of the race. Anyway, it was an electric day in D.C. when it comes to these events. The Freedom 250, NASCAR's foray into the Los Angeles Coliseum a few years back, F1's inaugural race in Miami. It's all about the pageantry. It's an event. It's a spectacle. The racing always takes a back seat. You have to nail the first part, and they did. Well done. And this again, dovetailing off of what I mentioned before, and just kind of backing up even further, the entire America 250 celebration this year. It's really unfortunate because I don't think most people here in Minnesota, if you haven't traveled outside of the state, really got a good glimpse or gauge as to just how patriotic the rest of the country has been this year because of America 250. And I won't go and tell the story in its entirety again, but in the two shows that we did prior to going live. We did two dry run shows, and those are both available to watch and listen to. They're the first two podcasts and videos we made here on the show that, again, we didn't air live. We were just testing the equipment. But I told the story in detail about taking the 10-day summer road trip 2026 with my son, Kyle, where we traveled from here through Denver and Utah down into Arizona, spent time with my mom, went out to California, spent time with my dad, and came back. And I was personally just taken aback by how much America 250 imagery I saw, items available in grocery stores, out in the convenience stores, out in the middle of freaking nowhere. Like, you'd be on the road, you'd be on one of the stretches of highway when you'd see the sign where it says, a rest stop, next rest stop is like 150 miles down the line. It's not that far, but it's like 60 miles. And you would see something similar when it comes to these little convenience store areas, multiple gas stations in the middle of a highway in America where there's just not any cities around. And, you would pull over to go get gas. The only things there would be like a Subway, a couple of gas stations, the convenience store attached to it. And you walk in and they had just all kinds of America 250 merchandise for sale. And I was completely unaware that this was going on, in the rest of the country, driving through remote parts of Utah and small towns and hotels that you and I would never go and stay in because they just looked too sketchy. And they had these big, beautiful America 250 banners on it. We just don't get that here. The DFL, the local media, they've refused to go and be, patriotic in any way, shape, or form because that is associated with those on the right. And we saw the ugly side of that, and we'll have an update on this as well next hour. We saw the ugly side of that in this completely unnecessary protest and riot that broke out in the middle of conservative, doing nothing with my fingers, provocateur Jake Lang and his free speech stunt and the chaos that ensued afterwards, where a guy just cycling through on his road bike that had an American flag hanging out of a backpack, he probably didn't even realize that it was there, ended up having the mob of Antifa fascists descend upon him to check to make sure that he was on the right side. Yeah, you tell me who are the fascists. So here's the audio I wanted to share with you. Again, this is normal people. Normal as much as these are professional race car drivers, but you get what I'm saying. Normal people acting normal about something that's anything but normal, and that is meeting the president of the United States. Here is Will Power, probably one of the most well-known IndyCar drivers, in his post-race interview.
Part of that group that had the photo with the president. Just what is it, I guess, kind of like to do that and then have to go race right away?
That was, it's really something. You see the Secret Service, you see the cars pull up. For me, being from a small town in Australia, to end up standing and talking to an American president is surreal. It's something I would never have dreamed of. So, it was just, incredible to stand there, talk to the president and the first lady, then jump in a race car and race in Washington, D.C. So, it's not... maybe it'll get in the Toowoomba Chronicle. They might put it in. Picture of me shaking him, President Trump's hand. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Yeah.
No politics, right? That reporter, in my opinion, the intention there was to raise some controversy. Because this is the world that we live in. This is how journalism is here in the United States. You bring Donald Trump into the mix and anybody meeting Donald Trump, and suddenly there's an issue to be had by those on the left. And I guarantee you, if I go looking on X, I'll probably find more than a smattering of negative commentary over Will Power's comments, where he just, again, acted like a normal person would when meeting the president of the United States. It's just refreshing to hear. In his post-race interview, and I believe he was talking with Fox News, Kyle Kirkwood, who won the race, this is what he had to say, and his comments about President Donald Trump as well.
It hasn't really settled in yet, right? Like, I won the race. I get out of the car. I see President Trump sitting there cheering me on. As a proud American, that's a pretty big deal to have the president cheering you on. Nothing else like it, right? But that was not an easy race. 147 laps is about double the distance that we typically do on street courses like this, and it's about 90 degrees outside. The humidity is pretty high. You can expect about 30 degrees hotter in one of the cockpits of one of these Indy cars.
I had the opportunity to go and again, that was Kyle Kirkwood, the IndyCar racer who won the race on Sunday. I had the opportunity last night to go talk with the BPOU out of Blaine. It's their monthly meeting, and there was something in the midst of when I was speaking to the crowd there that I kind of failed to mention. And I wanted to be positive. Whenever I have the opportunity to go and speak to a group of individuals, especially those that are involved in helping the candidates, helping the election process. Those that are doing the hard work is what I'm trying to say. Those that are out there making the phone calls and canvassing and door knocking, those are the real heroes. And we'll get into more of that coming up next hour with this controversy swirling around the guy who was dressed as Spider-Man who attacked Jake Lang over the weekend and is now being, immortalized in imagery and coverage in the media. We'll get into all of that because he's not a hero. He's a punk. He's a punk and he got arrested. He just happened to be wearing a Spider-Man suit. And I don't have any faith at all that Marvel will step in at this point in time. They'll probably make a comic book based off of this. And there's already imagery of that type of comic book that's floating around online. But I was trying to be positive, and I was dovetailing off of a conversation that I had last week on the show, more of a narrative than a conversation about how there is a level of positivity regarding the state of Minnesota that I haven't heard coming from people in a long, long time over the course of the past several years for good reason. A lot of it's just been about the negativity, especially stemming from the DFL trifecta and the damage that it did, and the fact that this last legislative session, you had a priority in the House, DFL had a majority in the Senate, and basically everything was stalled. So there was no reversing any of the damage the DFL did during their trifecta. There was just stopping them from doing any further damage. And in the wake of that trifecta, you had all of the commentary and the articles and the data showing the number of individuals leaving the state. And I believe what we have left are people that are committed to Minnesota. And because of that, you're hearing a lot more a lot more. You're hearing a positive attitude that you didn't hear before in the midst of still wanting to go and tackle all these issues. And this is what I was attempting to convey to the group last night at the Ballpark restaurant in Blaine. But there's something else I want to add to this that I didn't get to talk about last night. And that is, this positivity isn't exclusive to Minnesota. I'm also seeing it within anecdotal stories surrounding the controversies that we're faced with every single day. All of that is a really convoluted way of saying that I'm seeing a level of common sense enter back into the social zeitgeist that I have not seen in years. And this is in direct correlation to President Donald Trump's second term. It's a direct correlation to Republicans having power. It's also an example that it takes a little while to go and turn the ship around. You had 4 years of Joe Biden making this incredibly far left turn that has resulted in what could be pending disaster for Democrats, with the rise of the Democrat socialists co-opting, taking over the party, the communists infiltrating, while at the same time you see Republicans, you see conservatives staying steadfast in their beliefs and moving forward, and the positive ramifications of that. You're going to see the controversy. You're going to see the pushback, whether we're talking about NBA sports, whether we're talking about what's taken place over the weekend. But you're also seeing this level of common sense that you just haven't heard in a long time. As a matter of fact, let me go here. I had this clip and I wasn't sure where I was going to share it with you. I found it yesterday. I don't know how old it is. I think it's relatively new, but it caught my attention. I was like, oh, this is worth sharing on the show. And again, not knowing exactly where I wanted to attach it, I can put it right here because it fits. So on the Joe Rogan podcast, Billy Bob Thornton, the actor and also musician, he fancies himself as being a musician. I know he's released a lot of albums. He's kind of like Kevin Bacon is a musician and an actor too, right? So this is a brief conversation that I found online. Again, I don't know if it's new. I think it's one of the more recent Joe Rogan podcasts, but I could be wrong. But it's speaking to what I am talking about right now, in this return of common sense in the midst of a society that's more polarized and divided as ever. I am seeing these cracks of sunlight showing that the country is going through a level of healing, for lack of a better way to describe it, without getting too touchy-feely. But listen to this exchange between Joe Rogan and Billy Bob Thornton. I got a kick out of it.
That has thrown you in jail, you know. But there's something about having heroes that are unattainable for you. That way they can stay in that magic spot. So I think we've lost magic and mystery and all these things.
Well, it certainly happens when you hear actors talk about politics. Mm-hmm. When actors become activists, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Oy. Oy.
I donate to a lot of charities, mainly children's stuff, but nobody knows it. I don't go to the award show and talk about it when I'm getting my award. It's like Ricky Gervais said in that skit of his, you know, he said, look, you know, come up here, accept your little award, and fuck off.
Yeah.
You know, I think, first of all, unless you have really studied stuff and really know about a subject fully, who the hell would want to listen to an actor or a musician talk about politics? You know what I mean? It's like, are we supposed to follow this? I mean, if we are, what if they lead you down the wrong road? And, you know, and politically, I call myself a radical moderate. I'm like very strong in my opinions. But my opinions don't belong to any political party. And, you know, I just look at what makes sense. And I think we need a common sense party in this country. That's actually what I think we need.
Yeah.
It's just figure it out. It's pretty easy to figure out what this is all about, you know.
A non-ideologically captured party.
And to Billy Bob Thornton's point, like, why would you listen to any actor, actress, or even musician when it comes to politics? Like, if the individuals are successful, they probably do not have enough time to really get into the issues. And this rings true when we'll talk about the SCOTUS ruling in favor of election integrity when it comes to mail-in ballots and Trump's executive order. You know, even people that follow this stuff, don't necessarily immediately go and take the time to find out exactly what the ruling means. And therefore, when you immediately begin to see the narratives form online, you either go one way or the other, when the details matter. And just like, why would you listen to any, actor or actress or musician talk about politics? You also shouldn't listen to anybody who is suffering from Trump derangement syndrome on a daily basis when they want to go and opine on politics.
Hey, from Brainerd. How on earth could you be positive about the state of Minnesota? They're going to get another trifecta because MAGA, you have abortion derangement syndrome.
That is comical, by the way. Absolutely comical, because I was saving this for later in the show. But if you've been on X as of late, the call must have gone out. There must have been a strategy meeting by Democrats, because you're seeing the likes of, I say prominent, doing nothing with my fingers. These are well-known names within the DFL, either individuals who used to serve in the legislature or are currently serving in the legislature. But you got socket wrenches like Jamie Long and Ryan Winkler, for example, over the course of the past 24 hours. They've been putting out these posts coming up with these ridiculous scenarios surrounding Lisa Dameth and abortion, basically making the claim that if Lisa Dameth is elected as governor, she'll implement the most extreme lifting of the abortion restrictions. Or she'll put in the most extreme abortion restrictions. I got to go the other way on that. My apologies. When Lisa Dameth would have no power or any say over abortion whatsoever in the state of Minnesota if she were elected governor, any more than Amy Klobuchar would. But they're out there spreading that lie and information and disinformation. And yet here you have, the voice disguised Eric from Brainerd talking about the Republicans having abortion derangement syndrome. Now, he's referring to Michelle Tafoya, which he gets into here in just a moment, but I'll address that as well.
Look online. Literally, you guys are coming out of the woodwork and attacking everyone, saying you're not going to vote for Michelle Tafoya and supporting rape and incest.
That is a ridiculous notion when you look back at the primary results and you consider the fact that Michelle Tafoya still overwhelmingly decidedly won against the other GOP Senate candidates, even though her stance on abortion is well known. The individuals that you see online who are conservatives and don't want to vote for Michelle Tafoya because of her stance on abortion, which is everybody's right to go and do so, obviously. Those are a very, very small minority, just because you see them online. When you begin to break down the number of people that are actually on X, you're looking at much less than 10% of the voting populace. Those that actually go and vote are actually on the social media platform. And then you break that down even further to the individuals who are not able to, in their view, hold their nose and vote for Tafoya. It's not going to make any sort of significant difference in this upcoming election. As a matter of fact, that may actually benefit Michelle Tafoya, for those that would much rather see somebody who is competent and sane and has a good view of the future of Minnesota over an individual who's kind of a lunatic and crazy like Peggy Flanagan.
Didn't think I'd see that again after the Jensen failure of a campaign, but nope, you're doing it again. And now we're going to give them another trifecta because you guys can't be a little pro-choice. Absolutely bonkers. So, yep, once again, taking victory from the jaws of defeat, or wherever the phrase. Come on, guys. I can't believe it. Have a great day.
Yeah. You need to do a little bit more research. Yeah. You need to dig a little bit deeper and get your Trump derangement syndrome, as try to remove as much of the Trump derangement syndrome that you deal with as possible, because it really is, it's clouding your thinking on almost every single level. But I appreciate the fact that you listen to the show. Let's go back to some more of your thoughts from the blaster line this morning here on the John Justice Show, presented by American Experiment.
Good morning, John. The left has to get this through their thick skull. All these people that are coming over the border illegally over the years, the millions of them, are not coming here because this is the worst country in the world. They are coming here because it is the best country in the world. They're not coming here for any other reason other than make their lives better. They should come here legally. That's all that the right is saying. You got to come here legally and do it, and we'll welcome them in. But don't come here and freeload on us because we know it's the greatest country in the world. They know it's the greatest country in the world. Why don't you liberals understand it's the greatest country in the world?
Now, I agree with you on that, Richard. I absolutely do. But let me add something to this. And I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because I have commentary relating to immigrations and customs enforcement that my view here and my thoughts are kind of attached to. But let me take what you said there and expand it a little bit further. You're right. People do come into the United States of America because they are the greatest country in the world. A part of that is people that are escaping their own countries that are in squalor and have been for decades, have been for generations for a number of different reasons. And they're coming here to America because, yes, we are the greatest country in the world, but there's also a lot of people that are coming here to take advantage of our generosity. And the Democrats have been allowing those individuals to take advantage of our generosity for far too long. And I'll get into the further details of this coming up as we get into an immigration update. But you do mass deportations, and I have details on the number of individuals and who exactly is going to be deported under this temporary protected status being revoked. And it's the worst of the worst. But when you look at issues like affordable housing, when you look at issues of crime, certainly when you look at issues of fraud, you tackle the immigration problem, and we are taking the biggest first step as possible to deal with that particular issue, especially when it comes to the home value issue that Democrats are trying to make hay over. What they don't want you to know is that we don't have a housing shortage. We don't. Houses are just too expensive. People can't afford them. You begin to do mass deportations, you're going to see the housing market free up, and you're going to see those home values plummet, and you're going to see those prices get reduced. Why do you think the city of Minneapolis is going to have to jack up homeowner your homeowner taxes, right? Some 20% because of this very issue. Because of their budget problems. A lot of it that's attached to the issue of immigration, not just illegal immigration, but immigration in and of itself. So we'll get into more of this coming up on the show. I do want to get to a few more of your thoughts from the blaster line this morning here on the show.
Hey, John, this is Cambridge. First of all, Erica from Brainerd, just shut up. Nobody really cares about what you have to say anymore. But they're trying to turn it all into an abortion debate because they know that they can get their side super fired up about it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. They're basically just making up garbage relating to abortion because they need something, especially in the Namath race, and they can't use it in the Tafoya race, which kind of pushes back on Eric from Brainerd as well. They need something to go and fire up their base over, and so they're going to try to freak them out over abortion, even though that issue has been pretty much taken off the table, and the governor's office wouldn't have any say in it either way. That's good news for Republicans. If the Democrats are having to, and again, it's easy to lie. All they have to do is start talking. But if these are the tactics that the Democrats have to resort to right now in order to try to gin up support from their base, then it means that the Republicans are doing probably better than most people are expecting right now. And that's probably coming from their internal polling numbers. All right, let's go here. So this was in Newsmax this morning. The University of Chicago political scientist Robert Pape warns that President Donald Trump's doing that thing with my fingers economic D-Day campaign against Iran will backfire. Oh, no. As you can tell, I'm not really taking this dude's opinion seriously, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. This is leading to retaliation, he believes, and a prolonged regional war. Pape argues that the economic pressure alone is unlikely to force Iran to capitulate and could strengthen its political determination. He also highlights the potential for retaliation against the shipping and energy infrastructure, which could have severe economic consequences. Now, going back to what I mentioned a moment ago, and that is most people will not bother to do any sort of research on something like this. They will see an article like this in Newsmax, and that includes conservatives. They will see this and they will go, oh my gosh, this University of Chicago political scientist says that what Trump wants to do isn't going to work. Oh, why is the president doing this? And then, the mind reels in all of this, right? Listen, just because an individual is with a university and has a title of political scientist doesn't mean that while they're highly educated, it doesn't mean that they're smart. It also doesn't mean that there aren't other ancillary factors as to why they may go and make an opinion like that. Case in point, there was a dude yesterday. He's a local. I don't know if I can find it fast enough here. I've got X open. I commented on it because it was one of the most ridiculous pieces of commentary that I had seen online in a while. But he was talking about Ilhan Omar. And I think maybe I've got it. Oh, no, I don't. Anyway, basically his comment was, it was in reference to the fact that President Donald Trump was looking to do an investigation into Ilhan Omar. And this local political science dude had made a comment pushing back on that assessment, pushing back on Trump's efforts to look into the background of Ilhan Omar and whether or not she is actually here in the country legally or not. And then he went so far as to say, we must protect her at all costs. I found that hysterical given the fact that Ilhan Omar would certainly not feel the same way about this white liberal professor. There's no way that she would go out of her way to lay down her life to protect this individual. Quite the contrary, actually. I mean, of the most deluded commentary that I had seen, that was certainly one of them. So when it comes to this University of Chicago political scientist who warns about Trump expanding the war, I did the digging, so you didn't have to. First off, he's an author and has a new book out regarding foreign affairs and Iran. So as somebody who knows, selling books is hard. I have a 7-book science fiction space opera series, and I've sold my fair share of books, don't misunderstand, but it's not something that just happens. You have to really work at selling books. On top of that, he was also a former advisor to President Barack Obama. So I think that tells you all you need to know about this dude's assessment over Trump's planned economic D-Day campaign. With that said, I trust the views and opinions of individuals like Scott Jennings long before I'm going to go and trust a former advisor and a political science professor at the University of Chicago. Here's what Scott Jennings had to say recently on his show regarding just how the war with Iran is going right now.
And I believe this announcement may confirm something that many in our political class refuse to acknowledge. The United States has won the war against Iran. Wars are won when one side achieves its strategic objectives and the other loses the ability to achieve its own. Iran entered this war with 4 great pillars of strength: its nuclear program, its missiles and drones, its regional terror network, and its ability to hold the world economy hostage through the Strait of Hormuz. Every one of those pillars has been severely damaged or outright destroyed. But Democratic Senator Chris Murphy sees it differently. Listen to him on Meet the Press this weekend, Cut 7.
Donald Trump has lost this war. America is weaker. Iran is stronger. The price to reopen the strait increases by the day.
Even though Iran has lost the war, they haven't lost their public relations agency, I see. Democratic Party, it seems, is unified in its desire for the American people to believe that we have lost this war, even though it's clear the opposite is true. Has Iran built a nuclear weapon? No, and they couldn't build one for decades, based on the destruction wrought by the United States and Israel. Has Iran defeated the United States military? No, quite the opposite. The Navy is fully sunk. The Army is decimated. Has it driven the United States Navy out of the Strait of Hormuz? No. Our ships travel at will. Is Iran able to stop oil from moving in and out of the strait? No. In fact, millions of barrels of oil are transiting the Strait of Hormuz every day, more and more every day. In fact, the Iranian military has been devastated. Its missile and drone attacks have dramatically declined, its economy is disintegrating, and its neighbors are aligning against it. Yet Chris Murphy and Hakeem Jeffries and Cory Booker and virtually every other Democrat want you to believe that America has lost. This is what Trump hatred has done to the Democratic Party. But there is something deeply wrong with allowing partisan hatred to make you so emotionally invested in American failure, especially when that leads you to openly lie to the American people about what's actually going on here.
Yeah. I trust Scott Jennings' view on how things are going more than I do a liberal professor who's trying to sell a lot of books. I found that post, by the way. So this was Thomas Longdale. I'll give you. Oh, here we go. Let's see. What is his? I'm allowing the. He's an associate professor of critical media studies at the University of Minnesota. Super dad. He/him. And he also says the personal was always political. That's his credibility statement. Well, it's the he/him that sold me on that. This is what he posted yesterday. Congrats, GOP. You just declared a civil war. The people stand behind Ilhan Omar. We will put our bodies on the line to protect her. Yeah, you'll do so to your own demise. My response was the delusion is real, as she'd never do the same for you. Quite the opposite, actually. Or actually, as Ilhan Omar would say. All right. So thank you to Scott Jennings for allowing me the opportunity to go find that post on X. We'll get back to more of your thoughts from the Blaster line in just a moment here on the show, 612-584-4565. I do want to talk about NutraWave. If you've gone through the yo-yo dieting before, it can all stop today. Make the phone call to NutraWave. The NutraWave program, NutriWave.us. You can find out more there at the website. But call Dr. Bob today. He is a fantastic person. He is incredibly entertaining. Can I just say that up front? He is incredibly entertaining to talk to. Trust me. That alone. Just call and talk to Dr. Bob just to talk to Dr. Bob, because the dude is absolutely amazing. And he has an incredible program that has allowed me the opportunity to lose. I'm going on 30 pounds now. Second round of the program, kept the weight off after the first round, which gave me all the confidence I needed to continue my weight loss journey. NutraWave turns on the fat burning and it reignites your energy, and it does it in an all natural way. You get to choose the food that you want to eat. There's no pills and there's no shots. There's no excuses. And more than 31,000 people across the metro have already tried everything else, and NutraWave is where they got their life back. Now, if you call today, because spots are limited every single week, but call today, the 952-260-1965, and you could receive an almost $300 value. It includes the Truth Metabolic Session, where you find out exactly what's going on with your body, and also this incredibly effective red light therapy session that I have done. You hang out, let the red light do their work, and it absolutely has immediate positive results for you. So reach out today to get started on this program and think about it. Start this program now in the next week or so, and by the time the holidays arrive, starting with Halloween, you could be a brand new you heading into the holiday season. You'll have more energy. You'll feel better about yourself. You get your confidence back. And just through the course of the program, you completely change your relationship with food for the better to keep the weight off long term. With NutraWave, there's nothing else like it. There really isn't. So call today, 952-260-1965, 952-260-1965. Results may vary. NutraWave is not a medical treatment. Consult your physician before starting any weight loss program. So call NutraWave today. Mention that keyword strike when you do, by the way. Let's get back to some of your thoughts.
Yes, good morning, John. I do tend to agree with Eric just a little bit in the sense that the extreme pro-life group should probably just relax a little bit, but only because nobody is talking about it. People are only talking about it now because they have nothing else to talk about. And, you know, Michelle Tapoya is probably going to vote more like Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski.
Oh, I don't agree with that at all.
What is the alternative? Peggy Flanagan? I mean, ugh. Talk about extreme. Anyway. Have a great day.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything coming from pro-life groups, and I would hope that they would stay out of this right now regarding this race because of what you mentioned in terms of the alternative. I have no expectation whatsoever that Michelle Tafoya would end up voting like Collins or Murkowski. Everything that I've heard of Michelle Tafoya and the issues in the few years that I've been talking with her on the show, whether it was regarding commentary on her own podcast or since becoming a candidate, and really the abortion issue is really the only moderate one that I have heard from her. Everything else seems to fall in line with what most conservatives would tend to agree with. So I don't agree with that assessment that she'd be more like those moderates that you mentioned in Collins and Murkowski. But I appreciate your leaving a comment this morning on the Blaster line. If you want to do that, 612-584-4565. Again, 612-584-4565. You can also email me, john.justice@americanexperiment.org. One more story that I want to preview that I failed in promoting the show. The other big story today, we're going to get to the SCOTUS ruling here in just a second, but the other big story today that's making the rounds is Target pulling this allegedly racist offensive costume. Devin, have you seen this? No? Okay. So, I'll toss it up. This is what, just for those that are watching the show, this is what it looks like. It's called the Kids Glow Under Blacklight Circus Clown Halloween costume. Hide and eek. So when I first saw it, I was like, why is this being considered racist? What people are comparing it to are images of the Jim Crow character, which ended up leading into the Jim Crow era laws. They're saying that it's familiar. It has similarities, to that costume. So we'll get into that later on next hour. Because I kind of see it, but I kind of don't. I mean, I think the costume was just controversial because it's dumb. I'm just not a fan of the costumes that are sort of nondescript, that aren't associated with something. They're just kind of there. This just looks like a bizarre, looks like something that David S. Pumpkins on SNL would have worn. Any questions? Love that bit, by the way. Of modern SNL, that's one of probably the best modern SNL bits is the Tom Hanks David S. Pumpkins bit. So we'll get into that next hour, but I wanted to make sure that I gave it a bit of a preview. So as I was heading over to the BPOU meeting in Blaine, the news broke. The Supreme Court allowed the Trump administration to implement the executive order restricting mail-in ballots to 23 states and D.C., despite the lower court injunction by a judge that was put in place during the Obama era. The order, which directs the Department of Homeland Security to compile a list of eligible voters and the Justice Department to investigate election results, remains under legal dispute. The ruling does not resolve the underlying legal questions and allows for further litigation. All right, so there's a lot of words. What does all of it mean? So it means this. It means that the ruling will essentially allow the administration to move forward with the directive despite the injunction. It does not resolve the underlying legal issue. So the Supreme Court did not act on a separate lawsuit injunction that Talwani issued. This is the judge, the U.S. District Judge in Boston, Judge Indira Talwani, that blocks the U.S. Postal Service from enforcing the directive's tighter rules for voting by mail. The Justice Department had asked the Supreme Court to make it clear that its decision applied to both injunctions, but the justices did not do so thus far. However, the justice's ruling on this particular issue does bode incredibly well for ruling positive on the other issue. So this means that Monday's ruling does not give the administration an unrestricted green light to implement every part of Trump's executive order that he moved forward on in the wake of not being able to get the Save America Act passed in the Senate. Trump's executive order that was issued in March directed the Department of Homeland Security to compile and transmit to the states a list of U.S. citizens eligible to vote in each state. It also directed the Justice Department to prioritize investigating in state and local officials who use ballots to people not deemed eligible to vote in federal elections. The order further requires the U.S. Postal Service to deliver ballots only to voters on each state's approved mail-in ballot list. The Postal Service has moved to implement Trump's directive already, although enforcement of its new rules has remained blocked by the other Talwani separate nationwide injunction that we're still waiting to get a ruling on. Now, Trump has vowed to end the use of mail-in ballots nationwide before the midterms and has long raised concerns about the security of mail-in voting. So the Supreme Court on Monday did not settle the broader constitutional questions surrounding the executive order. The states remain able to pursue further litigation, and the dispute could return to the Supreme Court as the November election approaches. But one of the dissenting voices, Ketanji Brown here, was very concerned that there would not be enough time to overturn this and that it could be implemented before the November elections. Trump's executive order is, of course, part of a broader effort to make changes to the U.S. election procedures. So let me share with you some audio, and we'll get to further details on this. First, we will start with Bret Baier in the initial reporting when the news broke on Fox News.
Over the president's executive order restricting mail-in voting. The court's conservative majority did not decide the legality of the order, instead ruling states do not have the legal right to challenge it. The decision leaves room for additional court challenges that could further slow the order, and other similar cases have already been filed. The Postal Service laid out how it would implement the order last week, but time is running short to impose major changes, with some states beginning to send mail ballots to voters in just a few weeks or even days. Up next, new demonstrations surrounding the...
So I grabbed this yesterday in the wake of the announcement. Benny Johnson had posted a summary on this, and it's probably one of the best ways to describe exactly what this does. What's funny, by the way, about this screen grab, because I took a screenshot on my phone, is that in it is also the post by socket wrench DFLer Jamie Long that I was mentioning earlier, where he makes the ridiculous Dameth claim. He says, "We know what Dameth would do as governor. She could, put in an extreme abortion ban." And she wouldn't be able to do that. That's a straight up lie. Anyway, the Supreme Court ruling opens up the opportunity to implement the turning over of a list of every voter getting a ballot. So this is what states must do with this order. They have to turn over a list of every voter getting a ballot, put unique serialized barcodes on both the outgoing and return envelopes. And if a state refuses, the United States Postal Service will not deliver those ballots. It is a major election integrity win. Now, I don't know what this means, and I'm putting my I have the questions posed to the proper people. I don't know what this means for Secretary of State Steve Simon in the state of Minnesota and their refusal to turn over the voter rolls here in Minnesota. So I don't know if this has an impact on that or not. I mean, based off the initial assessment and the comments there from Benny Johnson, it would sound like if you need to turn over the list of all the eligible voters, that sounds like they'd have to turn over the voter rolls here. But I'm not 100% sure on that. So last night on Fox News, was it Mark Davis? Yes. Oh, excuse me, Mike Davis. Mike Davis was on Fox News and Laura Ingraham last night, and they were talking about this issue, and he provides a little bit further clarity on exactly what had happened. So here's a bit of the conversation between Laura Ingraham and Mike Davis on Fox yesterday.
The administration to keep moving on the president's plan to regulate mail-in voting, including requiring the Postal Service to deliver ballots only to voters deemed eligible. Now, remember, Democrats from 23 states had sued NDC, had sued to stop the president. But today, the Supreme Court lifted an injunction and said that those states, they essentially didn't have the legal standing to bring the challenge. President Trump is not anti-mail-in ballots, by the way, per se, but he is against abusing the process, and he believes that only people who are truly eligible to vote should be getting the ballots. And frankly, having all those ballot applications mailed to them makes sense. Here with more insight is Mike Davis, Article 3 Project President and former clerk to Justice Gorsuch. Mike, so the Supreme Court, and it was an unsigned order, right? But they essentially said that they expect further challenges. They're not ruling on the underlying merits of the case. But why is this still significant at this juncture?
President Trump ordered his Postal Service, his Attorney General, his Secretary of Homeland Security to work together to make sure that states are only using our Postal Service to mail ballots to lawful voters and not to illegal aliens and other unlawful voters. And there was an Obama judge in Boston, this left-wing radical judge,
Indira Tawani
couldn't do that.
Yeah, Indira Tawani,
Yes,
it was the district court judge Obama appointed.
She's a radical, and she said President Trump couldn't do that. The First Circuit agreed. The Supreme Court correctly said that, yes, the president can move forward, and this is preliminary. If there is injury to real parties down the road, then they can bring a lawsuit, but the states are not injured here.
Now, Mike, do you think that there is enough time for the administration to implement these regs? Because some mail-in ballots may have already gone out, or they're about to go out. Tell us about that.
I mean, the president is going to move fast. And I would just say this. Why are the Democrats so scared to have accountability with our elections? Why are they so scared to make sure that the Postal Service is not committing mail fraud by mailing ballots to illegal aliens and other illegal voters?
It would shock you to know, Mike, by the way, that Ketanji Brown Jackson issued a blistering dissent to this order, essentially saying this is all Kafkaesque and this must be stopped. But, Mike, we'll have to save that conversation for another day. Thank you very much.
Yeah, because, of course she did. Of course the progressive, liberal, brainless justice said that. She's the puppet for Democrats. That's the only reason why she's on there, is to parrot the talking points of the DNC. I have one more clip from earlier in the conversation that Laura Ingram's guest had regarding this SCOTUS ruling. We'll get to this in just a moment. Before we do, though, I want to remind you that if you have difficulty getting a good night's sleep, and last night, going and speaking to the group over in Blaine put me to bed later than I typically go. And often I would lose what I call my sleep flight. There's like that window where I get my sleep, and if I'm out past that window in the middle of the week, the flight leaves without me, and I'm stuck at the airport, and I can't fall asleep. That doesn't happen anymore because of the night gummies from Mini Leaf. They've been an absolute game changer for me. You take one right before you go to bed. They taste fantastic. No bitter aftertaste, made with all natural ingredients, which was important to me. Even consulted my cardiologist on these. Thumbs up across the board when it comes to these products. And I get a restful night's sleep. Even if I wake up in the middle of the night, which I do, I'm able to hit the sheets and I'm out again. Like I didn't even realize that I woke up to go use the restroom. So whether it's getting your sleep back on track and feeling refreshed, as I do every morning when I come to talk to you, or you want to relax with the fun gummies of the Spooky Mini Leaf Tonics if you're dealing with some pain, the Triple Diamond Pain Cream is incredibly effective if you want a delicious treat. Their dark chocolate is amazing. Head on over to MINNELEAF.com. That's minileaf.com to check out all of their amazing products. You will taste happy at minileaf.com.
Now, Mike, do you think that there is enough time for the administration to implement these regs? Because some mail-in ballots may have already gone out, or they're about to go out. Tell us about that.
I mean, the president is going to move fast. And I would just say this. Why are the Democrats so scared to have accountability with our elections? Why are they so scared?
And again, that was a bit of a repeat of what he had said before regarding the Supreme Court ruling and how quickly that it would take place. So I take the win. I absolutely take the win. And there were individuals online yesterday that were, going down the road of, they're just going to cheat. What does it matter? They'll just challenge it in court. And listen, all those things might be true, but it's nothing until it's something. And right now, those are nothings. When there's something, we'll go and we'll talk about it. Right now, I'm happy to see, as I talked about at the start of the show, the common sense entering into the mix of our politics, our Supreme Court decisions within our social commentary, the social sphere. It takes a little while, especially after 4 years of Joe Biden. But now that we are into this presidency, I'm beginning to see those rays of sunlight of common sense here in the country. And we cannot let go of the momentum moving forward as we continue to try to put this country back on the right track. And with that, we enter into the second hour of the show here for a Tuesday. It's the John Justice Show presented by American Experiment. If you want to take part in the show, you can leave us a blast here at the John Justice Show presented by American Experiment at 612-584-4565. Email me, john.justice@americanexperiment.org. You can watch the show on X at MN Think Tank. Be sure to follow American Experiment there as well. Also on Facebook and YouTube at the Center of the American Experiment, Facebook and YouTube pages. My personal pages, you can watch the show. The videos are posted there after the show is over, including Rumble. And listen to the show live on the free MixLR app, just like it sounds, MixLR app, where you can listen to the show live Monday through Friday, 6 until 9 a.m. And also get caught up on the podcast there as well inside of the app. And the podcast is available across all major podcast platforms. I want to take a moment and remind you that the 2026 Fall Briefing with Byron York as the keynote speaker, taking place on September 19th. Battle for Congress, and insiders look at the midterms at the winery at Sovereign Estate. You can attend the event. Head on over to americanexperiment.org for all of the details. And while you're there, hit that pop-up link and head on over to my page. Make a donation to American Experiment and get some amazing John Justice Show gear and embroidered hat. We can purchase logoed mugs, and we have more merchandise coming very, very soon. All right, we were talking last hour about election integrity, the Supreme Court moving forward on securing election integrity by tossing out a lower court's efforts to block making sure that the individuals who are receiving mail-in ballots are actually here in the country legally. Now, we await any challenges from the left that might ensue in the wake of the Supreme Court ruling. But as I mentioned, it is absolutely a win. So take the win right now as we wait for the Supreme Court to rule on other issues. An individual who's not taking the win very well is Mike Lindell. I'll get you updated on his efforts to launch a recount here in Minnesota. Right now, there are no efforts, and I'll explain why here in just a moment. First off, I want to go back to the blaster line at 612-584-4565. We were talking about the war in Iran last hour. Scott Jennings had some really interesting comments about the pressure campaign, whether it's through the kinetic military action or the economic D-Day that's being implemented against Iran. And it may be that we've already won this war with Iran, even though it's going to take a while to sort out exactly what the regime will look like in the coming months. Let's go back to the blaster line this morning here on the John Justice Show, presented by American Experiment.
The Iran war, the first war where we don't have reporters on the ground reporting it. We get what? Couple videos of missiles being sent off. You almost got a question. There's a war going on over there. Enjoy the show.
Don't be ignorant. And don't be offensive either. We've had members of our military, brave men and women, that have already given the ultimate sacrifice in what the Trump administration is attempting to accomplish against Iran, keeping them from getting a nuclear weapon, not appeasing them like previous administrations, keeping them from being able to wage war against our military assets overseas, us and our allies as well. It is offensive to me that you would suggest that this is some made-up event taking place. We've seen plenty of footage of our military within the region. You're talking about a country that's closed off, where our reporters are not getting into in Iran to report from the ground. So I appreciate the fact that you listen to the show. I really do. But that's offensive. It's absolutely offensive to the brave men and women that are overseas right now fighting for freedom, to stop the next war from taking place. Not everything is a damn conspiracy. And I'm so sick and tired of people that act like every little thing that you see is just not real at all. I'm sorry. It gets to me. It absolutely gets to me. Don't be disrespectful to our military. You want to share your stupid thoughts? I'll share them with the audience, and they can also listen to how stupid you are as well. All right, let's go here. Sorry. That bugged me. I think there's some lollipops in the break room, Devin. You should go give me one. We'll take a break and I'll enjoy some sugar, for crying out loud. All right. Mike Lindell's campaign is withholding I was going to make this prediction yesterday and I didn't, and I'm bummed that I didn't. Not that it was a hard prediction to make. He is withholding the $825,000 payment for the Minnesota gubernatorial primary recount due to a dispute over the recount process. The campaign argues that the state's plan to recount only votes for Lindell and his opponent, Lisa Demuth, violates Minnesota law, which mandates recounting all votes for the office. The campaign has requested a court ruling on the recount scope before submitting the payment. I thought that he just wanted a recount of his race against Demuth. I mean, that makes the most sense. Nobody in any of these other races that lost in the primary are saying there's anything going on nefarious. Nobody is claiming there is fraud. Nobody else is demanding a recount. Kendall Qualls, who was the endorsed candidate, of all the people that can go and demand a recount, it would be Kendall, and he's not. He did the right thing in the wake of losing on the night of the primary, asking individuals to go and coalesce around Lisa Demuth, but apparently that's a bridge too far for Mike Lindell. According to Lindell's campaign, the approach violates Minnesota law. There's a provision in state law that the campaign says defines a recount as determining the number of votes validly cast for the office or questioned to be recounted, meaning all the votes in the race must be counted, not just those for the two candidates. So he's disputing the terminology here is what's happening. Lindell has asked the state to waive the payment deadline until a court can weigh in on the scope of the Secretary of State on the scope the Secretary of State has proposed. I'm not the first one to say this, but I agree with the others that have commented on, and I thought the same thing. I don't think Mike Lindell has the money. And if he did, there's better usage of those dollars. A statement from the Minnesota Secretary of State's office replying to Mike Lindell's comments on this said this: our office provided the contingent recount plan to Mr. Lindell after it was approved by the state canvassing board on August 18th. The plan follows state law and the administrative rules on recount procedures and is consistent with plans of its kind for the past 2 decades. According to state officials, Demuth received 683 votes in the primary, while Lindell received 134,282. There's about a 45,000 vote difference between the two. There have been no official findings of fraud or irregularity in the Minnesota primary results. Mike Lindell has not offered up anything official regarding his questioning of the results of the election. And ultimately, I think it's kind of sad. And one of the central themes that we'll talk about with a number of different stories this morning are, wasted opportunities. And there's a wasted opportunity that's going on here. Mike has a significant voice here in Minnesota politics. He had a significant amount of support. He was able to garner that many votes in the primary. I just think it's unfortunate that he's now choosing his time to question the validity of the election rather than using his influence to actually go and help the GOP in November to go win elections. I find it kind of sad. All right, let's get back to some more of your thoughts. The blaster line is 612-584-4565. 612-584-4565.
Good morning, John. I'm so with you on this whole conspiracy theory thing. People, you have to use discernment. Were there some conspiracy theories? Yes. But not every single one that's out there. So the lady that called in about the war, is there even a war going on? Same with these Lindsay Clancy people. Oh, yeah. I have relatives in my family that are even like, our husband did it, and it's this, and it's like, where the heck's the evidence? And stop listening to people who just say this stuff. If they can't show you any bold evidence, then it's not a conspiracy theory. People wake up. We need better critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, amen. And thank you so much for the comment. Absolutely. Amen to that. And I definitely appreciate your thoughts this morning. And I completely and totally agree. All right, let's go here. The Trump administration is preparing to revoke up to 200,000 visas issued to foreigners who later sought asylum in the United States. It's part of the effort to crack down on what officials say is abuse of the immigration system. This was reported by the Associated Press yesterday. The State Department is expected to announce the effort soon, targeting foreigners with B1 and B2 business and tourist visas between 2016 and 2026, who later applied for asylum, according to the AP. The administration says that some foreigners are obtaining temporary visas under false pretenses and then using the asylum process to remain in the United States. Amen to this. Let's clap. Couldn't be happier about it, because I don't think most people realize that so many of the issues that we're faced with on a daily basis, whether it's nationwide or here in Minnesota, is directly related to immigration, not just illegal immigration, but also those individuals who have done just that. They've ignored the rules, or they've exploited the rules of the United States. They've taken advantage of the generosity of the United States, and now it's having a negative impact on almost every single sector of the United States. You remove illegal aliens through deportation efforts. You remove immigrants who, through various ways, have overstayed their visas. And look at the issue of housing. We do not have a housing shortage crisis. There are plenty of homes out there. The problem is they are not affordable. Young couples are not making enough money to afford these houses. Property taxes are skyrocketing. In Minneapolis, they're raising them by some 20%. If you begin to remove the volume that Trump is suggesting in this announcement, 200,000 individuals, those are individuals who are occupying homes. Those are homes that will be made available, that will end up driving the price of the homes down and making them more affordable for everybody. You won't have to have municipalities raising taxes on homes the way that they are if you start tackling this issue on a large scale. And I believe we're already going to see some of this based off of the efforts of what ICE has been able to accomplish already. Why do you think Democrats have been so keen to zero in on the affordable housing issue? They never mention the immigration aspect of this at all, because they know that's part of the solution. They need immigrants here in the United States, especially here in Minnesota, those who are eligible to vote that have overstayed these visas, that need to go home. They need them in their elections, especially with their party now being taken over by a bunch of communists. And they know full well that this is a part of the solution to deal with the problem, to make sure that you not only remove the illegal aliens, and there's plenty of illegal aliens that are also occupying homes that'll be made free, driving down the values and the prices on top of it, but they also know that those individuals who have overstayed their visas that are technically legal but still shouldn't be here are contributing greatly to the problem. And it's not just your home purchases. We're talking about the, rentals as well. The first deportation flight to Haiti since the Trump administration terminated protections for Haitian illegal immigrants left on the 20th, loaded with gang members, child sex predators, and other violent criminals. This is a long list, as you can see if you're watching. I did a lot of highlighting of all the different individuals. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll just give you sort of the top, the worst of the worst that are being deported. 162 illegal immigrants from Haiti deported on the latest flight. It came after the Supreme Court opened the door for President Donald Trump to end the longstanding TPS for roughly 350,000 Haitians back in June. Again, common sense. On a one-way flight was Zoe Pound gang member. We're learning a lot about gangs as of late. The Zoe Pound gang. It's Z-O-E. I assume it's not Zoe. I think it's always Zoe, right? The Zoe Pound gang member, McIverson Jetton, who has convictions for 4 counts of lewd or lascivious battery with a victim between the ages of 12 and 15, and sexual battery, according to DHS. Another Zoe Pound gang member, Mulder Hypolite, who has a conviction for second-degree assault on a pregnant woman, was sent back to Haiti. Crossed the southern border back in 2024 and was released under the Biden administration. 88 Crush Mob gang member, Davidson Athos, who left the United States on the flight, has a conviction for first-degree assault, arrest for conspiracy to commit assault, second-degree assault, fourth-degree burglary, second-degree fraud, drug possession, reckless endangerment. I've got a 1, 2, 3. I mean, this entire article is filled with just the worst of violent, predatory pedophiles, murderers, rapists, and thieves. These are the individuals that Democrats have been protecting. These are the individuals that when the Supreme Court lifted the TPS requirement to stay here, giving Trump the opportunity to get these anti-American criminals out of the country, these are the people that you had the left going and criticizing the Supreme Court for. These are the people that the left lied to you about, saying that these were good, upstanding immigrants contributing positively to society here in the United States of America. They will lie, they will cheat, and they will steal to retain and grow their power on the left. And this is just a further example of that. Keeping with the theme, and we'll get back to more of your thoughts from the blaster line here in just a moment. Residents of Appleton expressed their concerns about the new Appleton detention facility. And what bums me out about this is a story from, is this Fox 9? KARE 11, my bad. It's KARE 11. It's a decent reporting in the story. I'm fine with that. But, you know, unfortunately, because this is what the media does, the focus is all on the negativity because it makes for a better story. There are plenty of people in Appleton, as when we first reported this Appleton detention facility, a former prison purchased by the federal government to house illegal alien detainees. When it was announced, the people of the majority of people in Appleton were cheering because they know what this means for the community. It means jobs. It means opportunity. It means more economic prosperity for the region and the businesses there that could absolutely use an influx of individuals coming to work at this facility. On top of the fact that people of Appleton were also happy that their community would be part of the efforts to go and take care of everything that I was just talking about here on the John Justice Show presented by American Experiment. State Senator Tori Westrom, a Republican from Alexandria, State Representative Paul Anderson, a Republican from Starbuck, joined a U.S. Congresswoman and Republican Michelle Fischbach at the standing room only event. The Appleton police chief and mayor, along with the acting Swift County sheriff, were also present. We are going to build up to those things and address a lot of those issues that are coming down right now. And so we're here to help do that, said Fischbach to some of the members in the audience. Many of the questions centered around the anticipated loss in tax revenues since federally owned property are tax exempt. Tax records show the city of Appleton collects about $521,000 in revenue from CoreCivic. This is who runs the facility. John Ollinger, the city administrator, expects the loss to lose that property tax revenue by 2028. Now, CoreCivic wrote and says, we strive to be a good partner in the communities we operate. To that end, we continue to be in dialogue with local officials about opportunities to partner through the Memorandum of Understanding and other means that support the successful operation of a facility in a manner that is mutually beneficial to the community. Now, CoreCivic also confirmed that it will add about 525 new jobs. Now, is that enough to go and offset the loss of tax revenue? That remains to be seen. But what it does mean is those are 425 new jobs for the people of Appleton, and that's an influx of families that could come in to work, to go and spend their money in Appleton, to go and benefit the community. Listen, that in and of itself, when it comes to the property tax issue, I think it's going to end up at a minimum be a wash on that particular issue. Now, these positions include detention and security staff, medical and mental health professionals, case management and programming staff, administrative personnel, maintenance employees, food service workers, transportation staff. CoreCivic also said that all detainees will be adults and expected to be housed in the facility for up to 2 months at a time. Appleton Mayor Justin Kemp told KARE 11 that he's unaware of the schedule between the city and the federal government, so it's unclear exactly what happens next. CoreCivic said it also expects to continue managing the facility under the existing agreement with ICE. Listen, the property tax aspect of it is certainly one to keep an eye on, but as I mentioned, those jobs are going to be massively beneficial to the people of Appleton, and I think most of the people of Appleton are completely aware of that. All right, coming up, I do have one more ICE-related story as we turn our attention over to Target. Teachers' unions are boycotting Target, says the company was silent on ICE surge. The teachers' unions are looking for attention. It's no different than when I was talking about those socket wrench DFLers trying to fearmonger what Lisa Damoth would do as governor regarding abortion and putting an abortion ban again. They're looking to try to gain attention because they need some positivity attached to them. And this goes back to the common sense. This goes back to what the Trump administration has been able to accomplish since he took office again. Things are starting to head back in the right direction. And so you're seeing these moves by these leftist outlets. And yes, the teachers union is a leftist outlet to try to gain some favoritism among the base, grow their ranks, and bring more people into the fold. And that's certainly the case with this ridiculous boycotting of Target once again. And then we'll talk about Target pulling this offensive Halloween costume from the stores and whether or not it actually is offensive. I'll give you an update on the Minnesota State Fair and the issue of the gangs. As I mentioned, Bill Glahn, the policy fellow here at American Experiment, did a fantastic job of really drilling down the point that I was attempting to make yesterday but failed to do so. Bill Glahn comes in with the assist here at Center of the American Experiment, and I'll share with you what he had to say coming up in just a moment, and we'll get back to more of your thoughts from the Blaster line, 612-584-4565, here on the John Justice Show, presented by American Experiment.
And now, here's commentary on the latest issues facing Minnesotans from the hosts, policy fellows, and guests of American Experiment. For more content, head on over to the Center of the American Experiment's YouTube page or at americanexperiment.org.
And there were posts circulating on social media from members of these gangs saying that basically they were going to continue that line of violence at the state fair this year. And thank God, law enforcement perked their ears up. And so now officials in Ramsey County are working with the Minnesota Attorney General's office to look at using a very, very rarely used state statute called the Minnesota Civil Gang Nuisance Law to try and prevent that violence from happening. The law would allow officials to sue gang members and prevent them from associating, intimidating, annoying, provoking, or threatening others in and around the state fairgrounds between August 27th and September 8th, 2026. So they're asking basically a judge to issue an injunction and allow them to use this statute. If the injunction is issued, they would have the legal authority to proactively detain gang members listed in the suit who violate certain conditions, such as associating with one another at the fair. And this is brilliant because otherwise law enforcement is only able to do something after a crime has taken place. This is something they could do on the front end to prevent it from ever happening.
It's John Justice, and you've probably gone through the yo-yo dieting. That was the case for me, but not anymore. You lose a few pounds, it all comes back, and more. You lose a few pounds, and it all comes back, and even more. If that's been your life, NutraWave was built for you. It certainly was for me. I've lost over 25 pounds on this amazing program. NutraWave turns on the fat burning, reignites your energy, and it's all natural. There's no pills, there's no shots, there's no excuses. It actually helps you change your relationship with food just through the process of the program. 31,000 people across the metro have tried everything else, and NutraWave is where they got their life back. And NutraWave is accepting a limited number of new people. So call and mention the word strike, and you get a $272 value Truth Metabolic Scan and a red light therapy session. I've done it. It's incredibly effective. Nothing to lose and everything to gain, but you're going to lose the weight and you're not going to put it back on. Individual results may vary. So call today at 952-260-1965. That's 952-260-1965. Remember, no pills, no shots, just results. NutraWave, there's nothing else like it. Results may vary. NutraWave is not a medical treatment. Consult your physician before starting any weight loss program.
Support the John Justice Show. Become an advertiser. Competitive rates for both personal endorsements and standard ads are available. For more details, email john.justice@americanexperiment.org.
It's baffling how you can get to the conclusion that, no, actually, the more people that are dependent, so desperate, and it's such a hard situation that they need the state government, the more people in that situation is a good thing.
Right. Well, not only is it ideologically unwise, in my opinion, to be trending that way, but our budget can't handle it. This is a completely unsustainable path that we are on, even with how much our spending has already grown. It's still growing on this area of welfare programs. And that's where you get back to this idea of a ticking time bomb.
Think about it. A famous politician once said, "You're entitled to your opinion,
but you are not entitled to your own facts. But in a world full of AI and fake news, where can Minnesotans find the facts? Center of the American Experiment is Minnesota's go-to source for fact-based analysis and common sense solutions for taxes, energy, public safety, and our kids' education. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
That was a lot more relevant than even I realized in light of some of the commentary this morning here on the John Justice Show presented by American Experiment. What am I referring to? I'm referring to you're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. Now, as the voiceover was saying right there, at AmericanExperiment.org, there is an amazing Wrong Track Minnesota list that is filled with facts about how we are on the wrong track. But I am, happy to report anecdotally that there is a level of positivity and people that believe that Minnesota is absolutely worth fighting for, and are talking about the best of Minnesota and how we can make things even better. So I would encourage you to head on over to AmericanExperiment.org and check that list out, especially when you're talking with friends or family, those who may not be aligned with you politically. Fact-based data points to show this is how we're on the wrong track and this is how we can get back on the right track. Now, I want to afford the opportunity to the individual who left the talk back, basically saying, not in so many words, that the war in Iran isn't real because we don't have any reporters on the ground over there. Right. That was my extrapolation. I want to give them the opportunity to respond because I was a little hard on them because I thought it was offensive, especially to the brave men and women that are fighting and those that have lost their lives and the family members of those that have lost their lives. So I'm going to afford the opportunity for them to respond.
Looks like I struck a nerve. Good. Because guess what? When the truth comes out, you're going to be more angry. And don't tell me about military serving this country. I have 4 generations of military that have served this country.
Yeah, and I bet that if you were presenting them with the ridiculous conspiracy theories that you've presented here on the show, that they would be rolling in their grave that a relative of theirs would be so delusional as to think what's happening in Iran right now isn't real. Add this to the list of the other conspiracy theories that have been thrown out there that none of which have ever come true, long past they've been put out into the public ether. I wish somebody would go, maybe somebody has, I don't know. I wish somebody would go and compile when all these conspiracy theories come out. And I'm talking about regardless of party affiliation, by the way. Republican and Democrat, QAnon or radical leftists regarding conspiracy theories. It's kind of like when people speculate about movies that are coming out as an individual who loves pop culture and loves science fiction films. You do a lot of speculating based off of what you see in the trailers. There's never any follow-up after the movie comes out, going back to how wrong everybody was about their suspicions about particular character motivations or what was going to happen in a film. And the same thing rings true when it comes to conspiracy theories. There's never anybody going back to go and look at the conspiracy theories from before, for the most part, to say, yeah, none of that garbage that you said was supposed to come true regarding the election or anything else ever came true.
I have uncles that died in World War II. Thank you. I know what's going on. Unless you've been to Iran, you have no clue.
Well, then look in the mirror, because I don't think you've been to Iran, have you? So if that's the standard we're looking at, I guess neither of us can talk about the war in Iran. I feel a little confident in talking about the war in Iran, considering the fact that I actually cover this stuff on a daily basis, and I look at all of the available information, not just that coming from far wackadoodle right or left-wing websites that are ready to shotgun any conspiracy theory they want because they're engagement and clickbait farming.
All you do is you get on the internet and you think this shit's real, but it's not. And
gaslighting is hard. That's right. I get on the internet and then believe that the stuff is real.
Someday it's going to be a hard lesson for you to learn. And by the way, John, enjoy the show.
Yeah, okay. I'll tell you what, you call me back when all this garbage, nonsense, conspiracy theory stuff rings true. You call me back, and I am more than happy to admit that I'm wrong, that what's happening right now in Iran is nothing but a fabrication. By all means, I am a host that is absolutely willing to go and admit when they are wrong, and that will never, ever change. But thank you so much for leaving a message this morning.
Good morning, Bob from Lake Elmo. Also, Navy veteran.
Thank you for your service.
This caller is so off the mark.
Okay. Thank you for your service there. Let's go here.
That lady that said that she's certainly shown how stupid the liberals are. She thinks because she has relatives that died in a war that she understands the war. Because somebody fought in a war, you know, you understand it. You actually got to get the information.
Thank you for the comment. 612-584-4565. Let's go to one more.
Hey, lady, I'm back too. And guess what? I just don't have generations that served in the military. I was in the Army myself, lady. So if you haven't been in there and you haven't actually done the time in there, or tell me again, where are your facts of how this is fake? Let me know. Glad to go check out your sources.
Yeah.
Thanks. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you for the comments. Let's move on. A national coalition made up of millions of teachers, school staff, and other union members have launched a boycott against Target in protest of the retailer's decision not to publicly denounce the surge of immigration enforcement officers in the Twin Cities earlier this year. You know what? I went through and did all the notes on this story, and I have all the different aspects of this highlighted in the quotes from everybody. But just reading that opening paragraph alone, like I don't even want to bother sharing it. Let's just break it down again. We'll do that. A national coalition made up of teachers, millions of teachers, school staff, and other union members are launching a boycott against Target in protest of the retailer's decision to not publicly denounce the surge of immigration enforcement officers in the Twin Cities earlier this year. This is a Minnesota Star Tribune that isn't even worthy of printing unless you are putting it forward to discuss how absolutely ridiculous that effort is. Why is it Target's responsibility to go and denounce anything beyond higher prices of a competitive retailer? That's about the only denouncing that Target needs to do. Not like I'm a defender of Target. They're not a sponsor of this show. But this is absolutely asinine. Millions of teachers, school staff, and other union members wasting their time focusing on a retailer. It tells you how desperate they are to gain support. It tells you how little ground they have to stand on the actual issues regarding education. You know, to that point, I was going to go to, let me go here because this fits in as we kind of move around this morning, but this fits in just perfectly with this other story that I have. This is the American Federation of Teachers in cooperation with the AFL-CIO announcing the campaign in a full-time advertisement in the New York Times on Sunday. The group says the boycott could divert billions in back-to-school spending from the Minneapolis company. The AFT, which has 1.8 million members, is an affiliate of the AFL-CIO. They argue that Target's officials refused to stand up to ICE despite a months-long demand from Twin Cities organizers. Target representatives declined to comment on the boycott. Good for them. Why waste your time? But confirmed to the Star Tribune that Target has no relationship or cooperative agreement with ICE. Of course they don't. They could have done this to anybody. Under the standard of which the American Federation of Teachers is moving forward on this boycott, this is specifically targeted to Target, no pun intended, because they are a large corporation here in Minnesota. Whenever there's news about Target, it makes waves. I have the example coming up here in just a moment because of the offensive, doing that thing with my fingers, Halloween costume that they've pulled off the shelves. They know full well that they're going to get a lot of attention over this if they move forward with a ridiculous, frivolous boycott like this. You could target virtually anybody, any business that hasn't made a public statement regarding denouncing ICE. But they chose Target because they can get a lot of attention over it. The hacks that they are. It's pathetic. Equally pathetic along these same lines, Star Tribune headline this morning. Minnesota ranked best in the country for quality of life. That's right. Best in the country for quality of life. Now, of course, we've made a decision to stay here. I've made a decision to stay here. I think this is a state worth fighting for and has a lot to offer. That being said, we're not there yet. Several Midwestern states ranked high in the State of the Nation Project's newest report. You have to get into the details to find out exactly how they got this ranking the way that they did. The State of the Nation Project is a bipartisan group focused on the challenges and the progress of Americans. They released the study's findings over the weekend, doing that thing with my fingers on assessing how the country is doing. The report analyzed 31 quality of life factors across all 50 states. Okay? So they give you the top factors, which is all you need to know about how completely ridiculous this survey was. You ready? Minnesota ranked in the top 5 states for citizenship and democracy. That's not vague at all. Which is measured by voter participation. Now remember, we do have a lot of people that vote in our elections. Of course, the question is how many of those individuals should be voting in our elections. But we have a lot of issues here in Minnesota. The Democrats know what's at stake in terms of their commie agenda, and they know that it's on the line given this slate of candidates that the Republican Party has now gone and put forward. We have a lot of individuals that participate in our elections every single year for that very reason that I just mentioned. Also in education. So in terms of education, what are they taking into account? Is it test scores? Right? Is it the college prep tests that they're taking, right? ACTs or whatever the heck they're called? No, it takes into account not the test scores, but the average years of schooling of its residents and the percentage of young adults employed or in school. It has nothing about the quality of education. It's basically just, there's a lot of people that participate here in education, and we graduate a lot of people because our requirements are so low, but of course that's not included in this stupid survey. And to make matters worse, the propaganda is absolutely real because the Star Tribune ran with a photograph of Governor Tim Walz clapping along with the headline of Minnesota ranked best in the country for quality of life, as if he had something to do with all of this.
Very good.
Now, the truth of the matter is he did, because he's partly responsible, along with the DFL, who's wholly responsible, along with Walz, in lowering the quality of education standards here in Minnesota, in allowing the fraud to grab hold the way that it did to the tune of billions of dollars, none of which, of course, was included in the State of the Nation project. I found this on X attached to this, and I thought I'd share it with you. Sam E. Antar. This is how political propaganda works. Here's how he breaks it down. Minnesota ranks 32nd for its economy, 26th for safety, 12th for quality of life in Wallet Hub's current 2026 rankings, for what it's worth, Pocket Wallet survey. Its tax system ranks 44th out of 50 for competitiveness. And I'm not even getting to the items on the wrong track, Minnesota. But sure, Democrats found one spreadsheet, one organization that crowned Minnesota number one, so apparently the debate is over. And he's right. Sam Antar is right. It's a campaign ad disguised as a statistic. Remember, kids in Mississippi can read better than kids in Minnesota. Statistical fact. All these are. Minnesota is now below average state economically. 55% of Minnesota students can't do math at a grade level. Minnesota taxes small businesses more than any other state. Minnesota government let fraudsters steal over $9 billion. Oh, and how's that quality of life for all the people in Minneapolis right now who had their automobiles smashed and vandalized, seemingly for no good reason over the past weekend, something that continues time and time again in Minneapolis? How's their quality of life, by the way? Was that included in this stupid survey as well, making us number one on their rankings? No, these surveys are put out there, like we've joked about on the show in terms of the Pocket Wallet surveys, because they know that it's going to get a lot of attention. It's going to end up benefiting Democrats here in the end. So they go and they game the numbers to make things look as rosy as humanly possible. Is it a great state to live? Absolutely. Have I decided here, given the opportunity to leave, to stay here with my family? Yes, because I too believe this is a state worth fighting for, and I enjoy living here. But we're certainly far from being number one on any metric. This is why the elections in November are so incredibly important. Let's get back to some of your thoughts on the blaster line this morning here on the John Justice Show.
Good morning, John. Of course, a lot of kids go to college in this state. You only need a 3.0, potentially even a 2.7 to get into a lot of the Minnesota state colleges in this state. But then don't forget, we also have the Promise Act. So if your family makes less than $80,000 a year, you're also getting free college tuition. So why wouldn't these kids go to school?
Yeah.
They don't have to work hard when they get there. They get a free education for doing the very bare minimum. Sad.
Thank you so much for the comment. A lot of blasts have rolled in, and I want to give myself the opportunity to preview some of them so I can share them with you. So we're going to get to your thoughts here in just a moment here on the John Justice Show. Thank you to everybody who's been hanging out. Remember, you can get caught up on the show via the podcast. That's posted into the MixLR app where you're listening to the show live. Also across all the podcast platforms. And if you're watching the show, if you missed any portion and you want to watch the video back, those are posted when the show is over, both on Facebook and on YouTube and on Rumble as well. So I want to share with you, a friend of the show, Kenneth, made a new parody for us. I played a preview of it last week, but I didn't play it almost in its entirety. So let me go ahead and share this brand new parody from a friend of the show. It's called No Fraud Here, doing that thing with my palms just everywhere else. And while you enjoy this brand new parody, courtesy of a friend of the show, I'm going to preview some of your comments, and we'll get to those coming up next here on the John Justice Show, presented by American Experiment.
$250 million for meals that never hit a plate. Feeding our future, feeding luxury estates. Shell companies, fake kids, Mercedes and mansions. While the auditors shrugged and the checks kept advancing. Housing grants, Medicaid, autism meals on parade. Fraudulent and flying in $500 million, try 9 or more, they say. 90+ charge, conviction stacking high. Kids went hungry while the grifters took the sky. But they swear there's no voter fraud, not a single dirty vote. While the rest of the system's drowning in a money boat. High tax Minnesota, third highest rates we pay. Crime ain't even the worst, yet they still take it away. Look how silly the taxes, look how silly the trust. When the surplus vanishes and the fraud is a must. $18 billion surplus, biggest in the books. They spent it on new programs and permanent hooks. One-time check for some, permanent growth for the rest. Now the forecast shows shortfalls while the fraudsters get dressed. Roads could have been fixed, schools could have been strong. Tax cuts for the people who've been carrying along. A second home down south or boats on the lake. Instead we funded fake meals and the next big take. But they swear there's no voter fraud, not a single dirty vote. While the rest of the system's drowning in a money boat. High tax Minnesota, third highest rates we pay. Crime ain't even the worst, yet they still take it away. Look how silly the taxes, look how silly the trust. When the surplus vanishes and the fraud is a must. Vouching on election day, trust us it's secure. Meanwhile, the nutrition program couldn't keep the door. Same state, same leaders, same nothing to see. One system's sacred, the other's free money for free. 18 billion could have bought a whole lot of sense. Instead, we got mansions and a budget that's tense. No fraud at the polls, they chant it so loud, while the rest of the ledger's under a fraud cloud. High taxes, low trust, and a system so sly. Minnesota's laughing all the way to the sky.
To friend of the show, Kenneth, for contributing that new parody into our list of parody songs here on the John Justice Show, presented by American Experiment. I've had the opportunity to go through several of your blasts this morning before we move on to offensive Halloween costumes and authorities identifying the Minneapolis Spider-Man who was arrested for assault at the Jake Lang rally. First off, I want to go back to Bob. Bob had his comment cut off before responding to our resident conspiracy theorist, friend of the show. So I wanted to give him a chance to share his complete thoughts on the issue regarding the fabrication of the war in Iran.
Good morning, Bob from Lake Elmo, also Navy veteran. Your caller is so awesome, Mark, on her rage on this. Conspiracy theory. I read an interesting article lately about those that are in conspiracy theory, the whole circle of them should really take a look at their pride. Pride seems to be a common denominator of people that really get wrapped into these things. And I know something you don't know, and the prideful nature of that. Take a look in the mirror.
And I just want to be clear in terms of the generalizing that I did earlier, because you generalize as talk show hosts. Of course, there have been some things that have been labeled conspiracies in the past that ended up coming true. I mean, the COVID pandemic being one of them, and I've certainly been vocal about how wrong I was on my view of the pandemic when it started, and trusting for even an inkling that we were just going to do 2 weeks to slow the spread. So I want to understand. I want to make sure that I'm being as clear as I possibly can without saying, let me be clear, that yes, there are some things that end up coming true. But for the vast, majority of individuals, especially the conspiracies that I hear a lot, ones regarding Iran or masks on candidates or Joe Biden having died a long time, as other people have postulated in the comments this morning, that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. So again, just wanted to offer some clarity coming from the talk show host. Let's get back to more of your thoughts from the blaster line this morning here on the John Justice Show.
Someone needs to do a study on the brains of middle-aged women after COVID happened, because both left and right, the middle-aged women, or the little older, maybe mid-60s women, the conspiracy theories are just out of control with these women. I've seen it personally. We need a study, John. Let's talk to some doctors. Have a good day.
We need it needs to be a team. No, you're right. It needs to be like a university level team involved in examining the mentality of some of these individuals. This isn't really anything new. I don't often share this. I get this all the time on the show. I have for years. Individuals that put forward these ridiculous conspiracy theories that never offer anything else of substance. And I guess that's what I'm really sort of annoyed by, and what triggered me this morning. It's much in the same way that, your foes of the show, the Trump derangement syndrome sufferers, they get stuck on stupid, just checking the boxes when it comes to the anti-Trump stuff. And you get the same thing coming from individuals on the right and people that I genuinely and generally agree with in terms of the policy issues. But when it comes to certain issues, it suddenly just becomes a conspiracy. Nothing is real, and there's nothing of substance being offered. After hearing this over and over and over again for years, there's a certain point where I go, you know what? Enough's enough already. Offer something of substance beyond what you're talking about isn't real. The show must be really, really entertaining, because according to a lot of these people, everything that I talk about on the show is a fabrication. I guess I'm just that entertaining, Devin. Let's get back to your thoughts from the blaster line this morning here on the show.
Good morning, John. It's Matt from Apple Valley. It shows the teachers union is not involved really in teaching when they're spending so much time protesting or complaining about Target. What does Target have to do with teaching kids to read, do math?
Yeah, nothing. You're absolutely right. It's a distraction. It's an absolute distraction. It's beyond stupid and a complete waste of energy and time. Another theme. Just a complete waste of time to go and boycott a Target because they didn't denounce something that the teachers union wanted them to denounce. I mean, in what circumstances in real life does anybody go and you didn't go and push back on this thing that you didn't know I wanted you to go push back on, therefore I'm going to boycott you? Yeah. That's what crazy people do.
Hey, John, good morning. Just wanted to comment on the Target thing. 100% agree with you. I do, however, find it peculiar that they kind of cater to that group of people. So, I mean, it's par for the course.
It's called capitalism. Not that I agree with it. And there's some people that have commented on things that Target has sold in the past, and I'm with you. I think we stopped our shopping at Target for a while, too, when they were targeting children when it comes to the transgender clothing and all of that. But, you know, there's liberals within Target that make these decisions, make no mistake, but they're also going where they believe the dollars are. Ultimately, Target is a retailer. They're a business that's in it to make money. And the time when Biden was in office, you have a hard time going and criticizing an organization like Target for not believing that this is where the country wanted to go and spend their money because it's all you saw online, but it was not representative of the majority of individuals who still, regardless of political affiliation, have common sense in their heads enough to know on the issue of biology that there is only biological male and females, and there is nothing... There is no such thing as a trans child. But Target was following the money. They're more apt to go and follow the money. They are faster to go and market this stuff when they feel like they can make a quick buck. A lot of corporations are like that. But that's the reason why they did it, and also the reason why they ended up pulling these items. Because it was no longer a benefit to them financially to carry them, and they were losing too much business. So basically, they're just putting their Target finger up to the wind to see which way the consumer winds are blowing, which is partly the reason why you have now the teachers union targeting them, because you're right. Target kind of made this problem on their own because they've been vocal about these issues in the past. They've made themselves a target. Target has made themselves a target. A lot of Target talk this morning. I know. Yeah.
John, how dare you disagree? Don't you know we're watching a big movie? J.D. Vance is really Paul Walker with a mask.
I haven't heard
Donald
that.
Trump has like 16 body doubles, and the real Donald Trump actually died years ago. Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, they've all been executed. Joe Biden's been dead for years. Wait, you just wait and enjoy the show.
Chris, you made my morning. If I were doing a blast of the day, that would have been top of the list. We need to bring that back, by the way. We just need a sponsor. If you want to sponsor the blast of the day, drop me an email, john.justice@americanexperiment.org, and we can make that happen at a very competitive cost, by the way. All right, let's get back to more of your thoughts this morning.
Hi, John. Thank you for telling me that the teachers union doesn't want me to shop at Target, because now I will definitely shop at Target even more than I usually do. And you know what? How dare they focus on anything but making sure our students, our kids know how to read and write, since they're so far behind. But yeah, I'll be shopping at Target more now. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment. 612-584-4565 if you want to leave a blast.
Good morning, John. Dustin from sunny Zimmerman. I'm just kind of wondering what the teachers union has to do with ICE at all. Shouldn't they be concerned with actually teaching kids, or maybe they're just looking to take our taxpayer dollars?
Yeah, pretty much. Let's go hear from another friend of the show.
Hey, good morning, John. So all these teachers boycotting Target. What are you going to tell your high school students that work at Target to quit their jobs now? Are you going to police your union members to make sure that they don't have any receipts? You got to turn on your shopping receipts so you didn't shop at Target. This is a bunch of crap. They just want to mention Operation Metro Surge again to get the name of that back in the headline, so Peggy Flanagan can come out tomorrow and talk about Trump and Operation Metro Surge. What a bunch of losers.
You know what? Thank you so much for that, because that's a great point and one that I didn't make on the show and didn't land on, and you're absolutely right. And it's probably the biggest motivating factor as to why the teachers union is doing this. It's the same reason why the local media outlets here in Minnesota have suddenly been talking about Operation Metro Surge again, because they need something to campaign on. It's why you have these hacktivist former elected officials and elected officials making up ridiculous arguments about Lisa Damoth going and lifting the abortion availability here in the state. It's why the teachers union is now going after Target and bringing immigration and customs enforcement and Operation Metro Surge back into the mix, because these are the only items that they can go and run on. So thank you so much for pointing that out, because, again, that's probably the biggest motivating factor as to why the teachers union is targeting Target, is just so they can continue talking about Operation Metro Surge, because it's the only thing that they believe, along with abortion, is going to provide them the opportunity to get their broken and brainwashed base of voters off their butts to vote for a bunch of communists, for crying out loud. If you need to take a break from all of this and just relax, first off, you need to make sure you're getting a good night's sleep. Also, if you just want to relax and chill out and take your mind off of everything, the Fun Gummies and the Spooky Mini Leaf Tonics available at Mini Leaf are the perfect solution. And to get your sleep back on track, the Night Gummies, I swear by them. Took them last night. And as I was talking about earlier, I don't think I wrapped up my point, is that I got home later than I typically do, and usually I miss my sleep flight. But taking a Night Gummy, doesn't matter. I take one, within about 20 minutes, I am out like a light, waking up feeling refreshed to come in and talk to you Monday through Friday, 6 until 9 a.m. here on the show. Head on over to MINNELEAF.com. That's minileaf.com. And there you can take a look at all of their amazing products, all third-party tested, made with all natural ingredients. Eric and his wife locally, they want to help you locally here in Minnesota live a better life through their products, and that's exactly what happens with the Mini Leaf products. They're packaged locally. The Spooky Mini Leaf Tonics are brewed in Eden Prairie, so head on over and taste happy at MINNELEAF.com. That's minileaf.com. Let's go back to the Blaster line. We'll hear from friend of the show, Bruce.
Good morning, John. My wife stopped shopping at Target after the incident with transgender kid clothes. But I think she might go back if Target would introduce a Halloween costume, a Randy Weingarten screaming costume. What do you think?
Well, speaking of Halloween costumes, Target has certainly apparently stepped in it. I had to do some digging to find out why and how this costume was offensive. And we're going to kick off the next hour talking about this very issue ahead of my conversation with Representative Tom Emmer. For those that are watching on the stream, I'll show you what the costume looks like. For those that are listening, I will do my best to describe this Halloween-colored clown costume, which is what it looks like. So before we get to that, though, we have a fantastic event coming up in September. It is the 2026 Center of the American Experiment Fall Briefing with Byron York, the Battle for Congress. Here is Grace Keating to tell you a little bit more about this amazing event here on the John Justice Show, presented by American Experiment. We'll try this again, shall we?
Join Center of the American Experiment on Saturday, September 19th for our 2026 Fall Briefing featuring Byron York. Byron York is the chief political correspondent for the Washington Examiner, but you probably know him from his frequent appearances on Fox News. York will give us an update on the race to control the U.S. House and Senate, and will show how Minnesota fits into the 2026 electoral map. Will President Trump beat the odds and grow his power in Congress? Or will Democrats take over and throw Washington into gridlock? Join us at the beautiful winery at Sovereign Estate to hear York's timely message. Plus, enjoy great views, conversation, and food and drink. Tickets are going fast, and we do expect this event to sell out. Get your tickets now at americanexperiment.org/events. That's americanexperiment.org/events.
You know, when we were working in radio, and Devin knows this, if you had, I don't know, how long was it? 10 seconds, 10, 15 seconds of dead air? You had these sirens that would go off, and there was a digital screen. It would go off in other studios. And typically it would be Chris Carr from K102 that would come in and say, hey, what's going on? Everything good? You need any help or anything? Whenever that happens here and I have a moment of dead air, that mentality, that panic mode kicks in. And then I had this moment of, you know what? There's no alarms going off. It may be quiet for a second, but people can handle it. I had the volume turned down. That was completely my bad. I'm surprised that I actually run things, and Devin it helps much with this, which is why I'm glad that he's here. I'm surprised that things run as smoothly as they do here. We're doing a lot of growing. We've got a lot of plans for the future. Let's go ahead and kick off the third hour of the show. If you want to take part in the show, you can leave us a blast on the blaster line. And that number is 612-584-4565. You can also drop me an email, john.justice@americanexperiment.org. And this may help with this friend of the show.
Oh, hi, John. I was wondering, are we able to, send you things through this line via text? I'm not on social media, but I have some information about a goofball that lives in Columbia Heights. Okay, let us know when you come back from commercial when you have time. Thank you. Have a great day and welcome back.
So you can't leave a text on the line, but if you do want to leave a message on here and just say this is not for on air, you can do that via the blaster line. I look at all of these. I come in the morning and there's messages left for me overnight when the show obviously isn't live, if it's not between 6 and 9 a.m. And sometimes we go a little bit over. So if you have information that you want to share with me, but you don't want it to go on the show, just tell me. If you just say, hey, this is not to go on the show, but this is what I want to share with you. Yeah, you can give me a call at 612-584-4565. Again, 612-584-4565. All right, so we've been talking a lot about Target. Let's go here. Target removed a circus clown Halloween costume from stores after online backlash accused it of evoking blackface. Okay. And minstrel shows. The retailer apologized, acknowledging the costume was offensive and should not have been sold. So essentially, it looks like a clown costume. Okay. In the photograph depicting this costume at Target, there is a black child wearing the costume, which I don't think helped in terms of the imagery that people believe the costume is evoking. It's basically just a black and orange. It looks like a clown costume. It has the typical diamond patterned pants that you would see like on court gestures, but in black and orange. And then the top long sleeve has kind of a frill at the end, has a similar orange and black scheme, but it's more of the jagged line variety, like what you would see on Charlie Brown's yellow shirt with the black image. It's included with kind of an over the head. It looks like a hood's not the right word. It looks like, what would you call it, Devin?
I'd almost call it a mask.
Yeah, it's like a mask that goes over their head with a big, broad, smiling face and then a little tiny top hat. Now, when I saw it, I thought, okay, that's a clown. The smile evokes, and it's a really bad reference, but it evokes the Joker. For one, a big, broad smile, but specifically in the Jared Leto Joker, where he had the tattoo on his hand and he would go and put it up to his face and it made the big smile. So when I first saw the costume, I have no idea why this is being considered racist. What people are pointing to with this is some people found there's like one specific image of the caricature of Jim Crow. And people are saying that that's what this is. So for those that aren't familiar, the name comes from Jump Jim Crow. This was a song and dance routine going all the way back to 1828. This was by Thomas Dartmouth Rice. He was a white actor who performed in blackface back in 1828. Rice portrayed a caricatured, dim-witted black slave. I'm looking at the description online. And the name became a slang term, of course, and a racial epithet for African Americans. So I've seen the images side by side, and I get where people are seeing the correlation. I guess I'm having a hard time believing that somebody would actually go so far as to create a costume like that, evoking that specific image. Be that as it may, Target's not selling it anymore. I just think it's a dumb costume. Even before you get to the racism part of it, I don't know what child would want to go and wear that costume. I've never understood costumes that aren't of a particular thing. Like there was one year when my eldest Logan won a full one-colored bodysuit, and it was back like something like Blue Man Group would wear. But there was one season when that was like all the rage with the kids, was this full like day glow green bodysuit, and this was supposed to be the costume. So it was sold under the kids glows under blacklight circus clown Halloween costume, according to the since deleted listing. It was sold as part of the retailer's seasonal Hide and Eek boutique brand. Hide and Eek. Okay. I guess we don't want to be encouraging children to hide and seek anymore. Is that? I know, they're just doing a play on words. I probably shouldn't get stuck on that. Target removed the offensive, doing that thing with my fingers costume, and said it should never have been featured in its stores. As a company, we know we got this wrong. We are deeply sorry. The costume is offensive and should never have been a part of the assortment. So when I found out about this yesterday, so I'm on X, and I see that post from Target. Target had posted this. It ended up on my timeline. As a company, we know we got it wrong. We're deeply sorry. The costume is offensive, should never have been part of our assortment. It's no longer available for sale. We know this is especially hurtful for our Black guests, team members, and partners. Removing the costume is an important first step, and the company is looking closely at how this happened and what needs to change in order to ensure this won't happen again. What's funny about it is that there wasn't an image or any details in the post from Target. All it did was spark my curiosity. All it did was make me want to go look to see what the costume looked like. And now more people are going to see this costume than ever would have. And maybe it was completely unavoidable. This is one of the things when it comes to boycotts that I often don't understand, is that you end up bringing attention to the very thing that you weren't going to bring attention to. It's like with the teachers' boycott of Target. We had the anecdotal evidence via the blast this morning at 612-584-4565, where the person said, well, now I'm going to go in. If the teachers union is targeting Target, then I'm going to go and spend some money there just to stick it to the teachers union. So again, it's not about really hurting Target. It's about sending a message for the teachers union. It's about keeping ICE and Operation Metro Surge top of mind for their broken and brainwashed individuals. And maybe Target had no choice but to address this, but could you not just quietly just remove it and not make a public statement? I mean, maybe you can't. Maybe it had grown beyond that by the time that I came across the story, where that was just a complete and total impossibility. The move to pull the costume comes after social media backlash in which critics accused the Minneapolis-based retailer of selling racist merchandise. It is kind of interesting to me that this product ended up all the way into stores and online before anybody went and said anything. And like I told you, I had to go looking to see why this was actually controversial. You really don't have anyone left in Minneapolis to say, hey, that's racist, y'all. Cut the DEI, and now you've got a minstrel clown costume for kids on your website, wrote one user on Threads. Of course, it was on Threads. That does not surprise me at all. Target, of course, as you know, joined a broad corporate effort to scale back its diversity initiatives after Trump issued a series of executive orders aimed at rooting out DEI. But Target also knew that it was not going to help them sell products, and it wasn't helping them sell products. They jumped onto the DEI bandwagon and craze, just like so many other corporations and especially retailers did, because they thought that's where the money was going to be. They thought that the progressive woke ideology was grabbing hold here in the United States of America, and then that was going to be enough to bring about an increase in sales of their products if they too went and hopped on board with these initiatives. Also, don't forget that they were encouraged to do so by the federal government under then President Joe Biden and whoever was running the show at the time for the individual who was cognitively declining every single day that he was in office. There was pressure coming from the administration for these corporations to adopt these discriminatory DEI practices. President Donald Trump just gave the ability of these incredibly expensive DEI practices to be removed from corporations, because that's the other part about it. This was a racket. This was bringing in money. It was a grift from the race baiters in the country who are encouraging the administration and thus putting pressure on the businesses to adopt these ridiculous DEI initiatives. And they would bring in DEI experts. They would create whole new jobs just for DEI individuals, making bank off of this in the midst of when we were still dealing with an economic downturn because of COVID. 612-584-4565, 612-584-4565. If you want to leave a blast on the show this morning, I would like to get your thoughts on the costume. And as a matter of fact, let's go back to the blaster line and see what you have to say.
Hey, John, I looked at that costume online. I don't get it either. And I think this is a good example of how not racist we really are as a society. That made it all the way through, like you said, all the meetings and the R&D, etc., and nobody thought it was racist because it isn't. We have to manufacture race issues in this country, and that's a fact. Have a good day.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that I repeat. I don't have a problem with Target pulling the costume. I get it. They don't want the controversy around it if people happen to think it's racist, but I also don't have a problem with them pulling the costume because it's a dumb costume. I don't know why. No kid is looking at that going, I want to be that. That's what I want. I want to be that costume. No, that would be a parent buying it for their kid. And I question their parenting skills if that was the case, not because it's necessarily racist.
Good morning, John. Victor here. With this whole Target thing, in my view, I believe racism has to be intentional. So these people that are claiming that this costume is racist, they have to prove where Target had the intent of offending black people with this costume. Otherwise, they can just shut the hell up, because I can say whatever the F I want is racist. Them thinking this costume is racist against white people. It's like everything's racist and everything's not racist. You have to prove intent.
And Victor, thank you for keeping it clean on the blaster line. I do greatly appreciate that. You do bring up a good point. They will have you. Those that are complaining about this are the individuals that believe that there is systemic racism here. And so they would point to something like that and say, this is proof in their minds of that systemic racism here in the United States. Because look, somebody somewhere decided to create this racist Jim Crow minstrel style costume, and it actually ended up getting out to the retailer and nobody caught it. You see, it's all a part of how systemically racist this country is. There's commentary. I mean, that's not even like coming from my head. That's commentary that I saw this morning.
Good morning, John Rich here. So we look at Target and the press release basically which drew attention to it. And like you said, nobody would have paid attention to it. It's kind of like Jacob Fry paying attention to the Lane guy and making the thing worse than it is. That's kind of what the Democrats do on every step. That's their political strategy. And I think you're releasing that and letting it become obvious.
Yeah, and to that point, we're actually going to give you an update on that riot that broke out downtown involving now the infamous Minneapolis Spider-Man, which has become a thing, and that was an easy one to predict. The moment that I saw the imagery of a dude dressed as Spider-Man going and attacking Jake Lang, I knew, oh, well, the left got another icon. They can add this alongside of their Star Wars Rebellion Loon logo. Before we get to that, though, let's get back to a few more of your thoughts from the Blaster line this morning. It's 612-584-4565 here on the John Justice Show.
Morning, John. As a guy who has a son that does some photo shoots for Target, the company that does that work is very deliberate about those costumes and who's wearing them. You have to do these audition things where they're coming up with the potpourri of kids that are going to wear what costume. It's very, very, very deliberate. My guess is that they actually were trying to be proactive in avoiding these problems, and ironically, of course, they stepped in it. But that's all because there's people that are hypersensitive.
Yeah. One more thought on this. Let's go here to another friend of the show.
Hey, John. The costume doesn't look offensive. It just looks stupid. Who would want their kid wearing that?
Yeah, no.
Yee.
Thank you, Lou. Always good to hear from you. That's right. I think Lou said it best. Yee. Authorities identified the Minneapolis Spider-Man, who's now been arrested for assault at the Jake Lang rally. So within hours, the easiest prediction that I could have personally made ended up coming true. So the media began to cover the Spider-Man guy, actually giving him the label, the Minneapolis Spider-Man. They even included the hyphen between Spider and Man. Right? I know. That's how far that they were going. So, and the media is framing this as, not in so many words, but this is my takeaway. They're framing it as Spider-Man versus a Nazi. That's the claim that they're making here when it comes to Jake Lang. Listen, I'm not a Jake Lang fan by any stretch of the imagination. As a matter of fact, somebody made a comment yesterday that I thought was rather interesting, where they said, "I wonder if he's still paid for by the Southern Poverty Law Center, considering the number of controversies that this guy has been embroiled in." How he likes to make a name for himself. I think he just got arrested in Dearborn, Michigan recently. This is this guy's business. This is his racket. This is his grift, is to go into cities with existing controversy and then go and make money off of it. And he's not the only one to do it. There are individuals who do that legitimately. You look at a Nick Shirley, who I believe legitimately wants to go and call out the fraud. But make no mistake, this is Nick Shirley's gig. But he's doing it in a genuine and authentic way. With what Jake Lang is doing here, he's certainly not going and doing anything to help Republicans in any way, shape, or form. In my opinion, he's actually going and making things worse. So the predictions that I had yesterday, one, the media would be covering Spider-Man as if he was an actual superhero. Okay. Social media wanting the Spider-Man versus the Nazi imagery. Oh, and they got it. Somebody had made a comment regarding this circumstance and how the left will go and gravitate towards it. And I told them, I said, listen, this will probably end up being the plot of the next Spider-Man movie, or at a bare minimum, the plot of a comic book. And sure enough, within an hour, I saw the image online of a comic book cover created with Antifa replacing the Spider-Man logo you would typically see on the cover of a Spider-Man comic book in exactly the same font, with an artistically accurate, dramatized image of a comically correct Spider-Man versus Jake Lang. Complete with the giant white cross that Jake Lang had on the streets of Minneapolis during the protest and riot that ensued in his grasp as Spider-Man was jumping to go and hammer down on him. The left loves their imagery. And why wouldn't they? They don't have any policy to run on. This is exactly what feeds the fascists in Antifa. This is what motivates them. This is exactly what they wanted, which is why I thought that comment alluding to the fact that Jake Lang may have been paid by the Southern Poverty Law Center to just perpetuate racism. I don't necessarily think that's the case. Jake Lang served time in prison for his involvement in January 6th. Since then, he's gotten out. He has decided not to go and just get a job like a normal, regular human being. Now he's just decided to be an on-the-street provocateur, touting conservative values and messaging, but really doing nothing of substance to help anything that he actually pretends to be going and supporting. This was a completely, as I mentioned yesterday, unnecessary event that took place on the streets of Minneapolis. It's a distraction. It doesn't help conservative causes. If anything, it actually hurts conservative causes and helps the left to go and bring in more lunatics like those that would get involved in Antifa and take to the streets wearing masks to get in altercations like this and then say that they're the ones fighting fascism when the reality is they're actually the fascists. Nicholas William Love II, dressed as Spider-Man, was arrested for assault at the rally. He was released on a misdemeanor assault citation. He claims he was protecting the crowd from a vehicle displaying a racist sign. So is he protecting the crowd from the vehicle, or was he protecting the crowd from the racist sign? I don't know of anybody that's actually been harmed by a sign. Like emotions and feelings, maybe, but like as a sign, like has a sign just been sitting there, just gone and attack somebody just randomly? I don't think that's ever happened. I could be wrong, though. He's from Inver Grove Heights, arrested and booked on assault while wearing the Spider-Man costume. Love quickly rose, of course, to social media stardom, and he'll be a star now in his own right. He'll be a darling of, he's already a darling of the radical leftists, right? He quickly rose to social media stardom after appearing at Lang's far-right rally on Saturday. At one point, the figure dressed as Spider-Man is seen jumping onto the back of a truck that was displaying a racist sign after the vehicle was driven onto the city sidewalk. And this is where I think that Jake Lang did this intentionally, because the point of contention from both law enforcement and the leftist real fascists that were protesting him was that he went and drove his vehicle up onto the sidewalk, and that was a bridge too far. As a matter of fact, in one of the statements here, I think I have it. Yeah, I pulled a bit of this from the Star Tribune this morning. There was a news conference held last night outside of Minneapolis City Hall. Some of the community organizers involved in the weekend's counter-protest questioned the actions of the city police officers and how Lang's vehicle was able to actually go and drive on the sidewalk. Emily Phillips of the radical leftist communist organization Minnesota 5501 said, "How was this vehicle ever allowed to turn onto a barricade in a crowded sidewalk?" In the meantime, Love, of course, has gone and launched a GoFundMe in the middle of all of this. "I'm asking for help after the violent incident in downtown Minneapolis," he wrote on his fundraising page. "That day, racist supremacists invaded our streets and threatened the peace of our community." That's a ridiculous statement when you consider less than a dozen people had showed up to Jake Lang's protest. And, you know, I think there's an argument to be made here. Nobody will know for sure the comparison I'm going to make and which one would actually be the reality. But there's an argument to be made that the left could have carried or at least made hay out of not going and getting involved in this, considering less than a dozen people showed up for Lang's protest. Imagine the visual of the media there with Lang with his white cross and his ridiculous, offensive, racist signs, and there's only less than a dozen people around. Now, of course, they're not going to let that happen because it wouldn't play in to the left's narratives regarding the right. That could have gone and potentially helped, and now that I think about it further, that image would have helped to diminish this idea and the narrative put forward by Democrats that the right is filled with a bunch of Nazi racists when you have an individual that the left considers to be a Nazi racist, who is showing racist signs, there's no doubt about that, is there on the streets for a protest and nobody goes and shows up. So what do? They make a stink about it. They show up. They create the visual that Jake Lang was incapable of creating because he is in the minority of individuals on the right that go and act and do things like this. Love went on to accuse police of being more interested in arresting him and roughing him up than addressing Lang and his provocateurs. Give me a break already. There are images out there of a Minneapolis police officer being punched in the face and pushed upon by the dude that was dressed as Spider-Man. The image looks like it could have been lifted directly from the latest Spider-Man movie. As a matter of fact, when I first saw it online, that's what I thought it was. I thought it was a screen grab from the latest Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, and it wasn't. It was a screen grab of a video of Spider-Man punching a law enforcement officer. So, yeah, I think he's probably going to get arrested for doing that. He's also probably going to make a ton of money off of this, and he'll be the resident hero. And now you'll see the Spider-Man imagery along with the Star Wars Rebel Loon stupid imagery being adopted. And I'll probably see it on the bumper sticker of a car with the Antifa Spider-Man on my drive home in about a week's time. I'll give it 2 weeks. May take a little while to get that together, if it's not already at the print shop. I don't know. Corey at the Minnesotan, how long would it take somebody to go and make up a T-shirt like that? They could probably do it in a day. Corey never would. I'm just saying in general because he does that kind of stuff. All right. 612-584-4565. 612-584-4565. Let's get to some of your thoughts this morning. We do have a couple more thoughts that rolled in regarding the Halloween costume. I'm looking to see if anybody. Oh, here we go. Let's go here. Looking for commentary on the most recent story that we're covering here on the show.
Good morning, John. Say this, that right-wing guy or whatever in Minneapolis. I mean, he's got his First Amendment right. That's great. I don't think he's doing conservatism any kind of favor. It almost makes me wonder who's funding this guy to go out there and make us look bad. Something like the SLPC or anything like that. I don't know if he's truly a conservative or just a plant of the left to make us look bad.
I don't think that he's a plant on the left. I think that this is just this is how he's found to make money. If you've got your social media, you would be surprised if you have your social media monetized and you're able to get even a halfway decent following, you can make a significant amount of money. And this guy has a following. He does. Like it or not, he's got a huge following. So he's probably making a lot of money, and he makes more money when he gets arrested. He's probably got no problem sitting in jail. I think he still is in jail. He's probably got no problem sitting in jail right now. The more time that he spends in jail, the more money he's probably going to get. And this is the same on both sides here. You know, the majority of these ridiculous fascist Antifa guys, they're making money as well. I've seen interviews done with prominent leftist activists, disheveled dudes in desperate need of a shower, like Lavish Mac, who's run for office perpetually in the city of Minneapolis, talking with other leftist Antifa fascist podcasters, where they're going back and forth talking about how much money they were paid to go out and protest. This is an incredibly lucrative racket to be involved in this type of controversy. So both Jake Lang and the individuals who fought Jake Lang are going to make a ton of money off of this through GoFundMe fundraising and through their social media accounts. They both win financially while the whole cause of politics and conservatism suffers under the weight of their stupid actions.
So, John, since we're going to go with like comic characters, I think Jacob Fry would be a great Joker. I mean, just put the makeup on him. He's already got the hairdo going and like the baby man jeans. And then we need to turn on the Batman light and see if we can call Batman off.
No, I don't want to. You know what? I do not want to disparage the Joker character by attaching him to Jacob Fry. Listen, Jacob Fry can be smart on some issues, but he's too much of a man baby to ever be the Joker. No, he would be the character that has already been created for him. He would be Minneapolis man baby mayor mom jeans. You put him in mom jeans, you'd have him whining all the time, talking about how all those businesses are coming back to Minnesota or to Minneapolis. There's all these videos out there right now of him doing PR campaigns. They're always close-up shots of Jacob Fry next to some business that's opening up because they probably got some ridiculous incentive from the communists on the Minneapolis City Council encouraging them to go and open. And so they figured, well, we can make a few bucks through the incentives that they gave us to open this up, even though we're probably not going to last very long. but maybe it'll be worth it for a while so we can make a little bit of money before we start losing it. They never pan out from those shots of Minneapolis Man Baby Mayor Mom Jean's Jacob Fry, because if you pan out too far, you end up seeing the crime, the homelessness, which we'll talk about here in just a moment. The smashed vehicle window numbers have gone up since we reported it yesterday. Not to mention what's been happening with this encampment behind these incredibly expensive apartment complexes. They have generators that they've heard over in this new encampment after the Pig's Eye encampment was closed down. They think they're building actual infrastructure in the woods behind this apartment complex. So we'll give you the details on that coming up in just a moment. But let's not disparage the Joker by going and making Jacob Fry that. That's too cool of a character. I mean, the Joker's a bad guy, but he's a pretty cool character. All right, let's go here. Pre-crime at the state fair. So hat tip to a friend of the show and policy fellow, Bill Glon. I struggled a bit yesterday to articulate my thoughts on this Muddy versus the Ville lawsuit to keep them from fighting each other on Saturday at the Minnesota State Fair. Bill, however, nailed it, though, in his piece that's available right now at AmericanExperiment.org. State Attorney General Thief Ellison put out a press release last week. I said Thief, not Bill, by the way. Attorney General Keith Ellison, Ramsey County Attorney Chow, win agreements and injunctions to prevent gang violence at the state fair. Now, the backstory, for those that are just getting caught up, a few alleged members of a Somali street gang allegedly put up posts on social media encouraging a rumble at the state fair. I haven't heard that in a long time. Rumble always reminds me of like Happy Days. We're going to get into a rumble. Fighting at the state fair or just about anywhere else would be a crime, by the way. Rather than wait around for the crime to occur before acting, two of the state's top-ranking prosecutors responded with civil lawsuits to prevent this occurrence in an act of pre-crime. Rather than charging the individuals with crime incitement to violence, the state went the civil route, where the burden of proof is much lower, and the defendants have fewer rights in the courtroom. In A.G. Ellison and RCA's, Ramsey County Attorney, Choi's August 5th civil lawsuits against the two gangs, 7 out of the 10 people named in the lawsuits agree not to attend the fair or be present in the safety zone around the fair. Ramsey County District Court finds the 3 others are gang members and prohibits them from associating with gang members at the fair or attempting to provoke violence there. This is according to Attorney General Thief Ellison's statement on the matter. So Bill Glon goes on to say, so Ellison negotiated with members of the alleged violent street gangs and reached an agreement. 7 of them won't attend the fair in exchange for what exactly? And the other 3 can still go to the fair, get their funnel cakes, get their pronto pups, but cannot provoke violence, which again is already a criminal act, or freely associate with their fellows, which also violates their First Amendment rights. I mean, that's assuming the gang members actually know how to read. I don't know if they were educated here in Minnesota. That's a big question mark. 50-50 shot on that one. I understand that one of the 3 subject to the court order never bothered to respond to the lawsuit or showed up for the hearing, writes Bill Glon. That was perhaps the most reasonable response to this farce. The other 9 hired lawyers at their own expense and fought the pre-crime lawsuit in court. So this is where I was struggling yesterday, and Bill Glon nails what I was feeling and why I was conflicted about this story. Somehow, Ellison and Choi managed to look both heavy-handed and weak-willed at the same time, using the full force of the state to prevent citizens from exercising their constitutional rights and negotiating with street gangs as peers. That's what I was going for yesterday. That's why this is so weird. Why are we handling this way? And I had asked the question whether or not there was a better way to go and deal with it. But this is the reason why. They were both heavy-handed and weak-willed. The state fair is a corporate entity owned by the state government. Why not just ban the gentlemen from the event and force them to sue? We were told early on, when this whole controversy erupted in the first place, we were told that we knew that the authorities knew who these individuals were, that they knew what they looked like so they could identify them. So Bill Glahn hits the nail on the head. He is absolutely right. Being that the state fair is a corporate-owned entity owned by the state government, you could just ban those individuals from coming in, just making sure that everybody knows what they look like, and then force them to have to go and spend their money to sue the state. But no, instead, we ended up wasting taxpayer dollars by negotiating with these idiots. These are your taxpayer dollars at work, people. So thank you to Bill Glahn. I would encourage everybody to head on over and check out that article for yourself. One more comment on the state fair. Sheriff Fletcher being interviewed by local news talked a little bit about his view of what's been taking place when it comes to threats of violence at the Minnesota State Fair. Here's what he had to say.
We've had gangs coming to the Minnesota State Fair for 30, 40 years. But they've always agreed the fair is neutral ground. And let's all go have fun and respect the fairgrounds. I've been here for many, many years, but we've never had threats of violence like we're having from the Somali gangs. Well, we will have Karen gangs, we'll have some Hmong gangs here, we'll have some, extremists on the right here. But none of them are promising chaos except for the Somali gangs.
And again, Sheriff Bob Fletcher and his thoughts on the gangs at the Minnesota State Fair. Coming up, smashed vehicle window numbers keep rising in Minneapolis, and the Minneapolis City Council is going to be hearing listening sessions for a new police chief. Oh, my. Who is going to want that job? They should hire Spider-Man. He's the perfect candidate to be police chief. Give that guy love. Give him the gig. All right, so we'll get to that. Also, we're going to be talking with Representative Tom Emmer in just a few minutes here on the John Justice Show, presented by American Experiment.
And now, here's commentary on the latest issues facing Minnesotans. From the hosts, policy fellows, and guests of American Experiment. For more content, head on over to the center of the American Experiment's YouTube page or at americanexperiment.org.
And there were posts circulating on social media from members of these gangs saying that basically they were going to continue that line of violence at the state fair this year. And thank God, law enforcement perked their ears up. And so now officials in Ramsey County are working with the Minnesota Attorney General's office to look at using a very, very rarely used state statute called the Minnesota Civil Gang Nuisance Law to try and prevent that violence from happening. The law would allow officials to sue gang members and prevent them from associating, intimidating, annoying, provoking, or threatening others in and around the state fairgrounds between August 27th and September 8th, 2026. So they're asking basically a judge to issue an injunction and allow them to use this statute. If the injunction is issued, they would have the legal authority to proactively detain gang members listed in the suit who violate certain conditions, such as associating with one another at the fair. And this is brilliant because otherwise law enforcement is only able to do something after a crime has taken place. This is something they could do on the front end to prevent it from ever happening.
It's John Justice, and you've probably gone through the yo-yo dieting. That was the case for me, but not anymore. You lose a few pounds, it all comes back, and more. You lose a few pounds, and it all comes back, and even more. If that's been your life, NutraWave was built for you. It certainly was for me. I've lost over 25 pounds on this amazing program. NutraWave turns on the fat burning, reignites your energy, and it's all natural. There's no pills, there's no shots, there's no excuses. It actually helps you change your relationship with food just through the process of the program. 31,000 people across the metro have tried everything else, and NutraWave is where they got their life back. And NutraWave is accepting a limited number of new people. So call and mention the word strike, and you get a $272 value Truth Metabolic Scan and a red light therapy session. I've done it. It's incredibly effective. Nothing to lose and everything to gain, but you're going to lose the weight and you're not going to put it back on. Individual results may vary. So call today at 952-260 1965. That's 952-260-1965. Remember, no pills, no shots, just results. NutraWave, there's nothing else like it. Results may vary. NutraWave is not a medical treatment. Consult your physician before starting any weight loss program.
Support the John Justice Show. Become an advertiser. Competitive rates for both personal endorsements and standard ads are available. For more details, email john.justice@americanexperiment.org.
It's baffling how you can get to the conclusion that, no, actually, the more people that are dependent, so desperate, and it's such a hard situation that they need the state government, the more people in that situation is a good thing.
Right. Well, not only is it ideologically unwise, in my opinion, to be trending that way, but our budget can't handle it. This is a completely unsustainable path that we are on, even with how much our spending has already grown. It's still growing on this area of welfare programs. And that's where you get back to this idea of a ticking time bomb.
Think about it. A famous politician once said, "You're entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to your own facts." But in a world full of AI and fake news, where can Minnesotans find the facts? Center of the American Experiment is Minnesota's go-to source for fact-based analysis and common sense solutions for taxes, energy, public safety, and our kids' education. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
We're awaiting Representative Tom Emmer to join the show. Looking forward to talking on a number of issues with Representative Emmer, including Governor Tim Walz and his executive order banning mining up in the Boundary Waters, the ruling from the Supreme Court regarding election integrity and mail-in ballots as well. So we'll talk with Tom about those issues and more when he joins us here in just a moment. Talking about that relating to downtown Minneapolis, they're continuing to investigate the surge in vehicle window vandalism. Now we're past 87 windows smashed in a recent spree. The incidents involving groups of teens or masked individuals or a masked individual. Again, has anybody seen Spider-Man? Left residents concerned about safety and financial losses. The police are strengthening their response, updating protocols, and urging the public to report suspicious activity and provide any available footage. Here's a bit of social media commentary from Channel 5 on this issue.
We're still following a string of car break-ins in northeast Minneapolis. This was overnight here. You can see right next to Diane's Place, one of the hottest restaurants in town. More car break-ins. The past few days, we've seen close to over 100 of these. We're still working to hear exact numbers from MPD, but the problem still appears to be happening in northeast Minneapolis.
Listen, this is completely senseless. The criminals need to be caught, obviously, right? Probably the most obvious thing that I could say. But they need to be caught, and then I would like to know why. I mean, why are they doing this? I mean, is it just because they can? As we reported yesterday on this story, it doesn't look like anything's being stolen out of these vehicles. Kevin Tran works in northeast Minneapolis. He says, I feel like I see a car or two a day, honestly. It's bad. Addie Thomas, who lives in the area, said she pays $150 a month for parking, in part because of the break-ins. You know what I don't want to end up seeing? I have no evidence of this, but just what I don't want to end up seeing is how this is actually being promoted by entities like parking services or window repair companies, right? I have no evidence of that, but that's what I don't want to see. When you look at all the fraud here in Minnesota and you actually begin to question just how many different social programs wherein Medicaid dollars are attached. Are there any programs that don't include fraud? When you look at the theft of the copper wires from the lamps, just to give you a few examples. I mean, when you look at the catalytic converter thefts, it wouldn't be that much of a stretch to see that this was a coordinated effort by different money-making entities where it could be advantageous for car windows to be destroyed without having anything stolen to keep the charges down, were the individual to get caught to go and benefit these particular companies. Again, I have no evidence of that. I just, in the off chance that it turns out to be true, I don't know what's worse, that or just an individual out there who's simply going and causing all of this mayhem with no motivation whatsoever other than the fact of what I mentioned and that they can. Addie Thomas says, yeah, I feel like paying for parking for multiple reasons in Minneapolis, and who would have thought cars getting broken into is now one of those reasons. Minneapolis police said some descriptions point to a group of teens, while others describe one masked individual. Where's Nomark, by the way? Did you hear about Nomark? Nomark was apparently the Minneapolis superhero. He was posting anonymously up on social media accounts. He has a full getup, and he's out there apparently fighting crime. I haven't seen much of. Well, the algorithm hasn't been feeding me anything from Nomark, so I didn't see him in any of the footage of the Jake Lang protest, and I'm just wondering why he's not doing anything about this. Nate Smith, whose sister's car window was broken on Saturday, said he is less focused on who is doing it and more focused on why it keeps happening. These guys are just breaking the windows just to break the windows, Smith said. They're not even digging around. They're not even touching the stuff inside, which is crazy, which again goes back to what I had mentioned a moment ago, and that is who exactly is doing this and what is their motivation for it. The Minneapolis police did share a lengthy statement. I won't read all of it to you. I just want to kind of give you the highlights. But they said investigators are actively pursuing leads and reviewing surveillance video, witness information, suspect and vehicle descriptions, and other available evidence to identify those responsible and determine whether the suspects are connected to multiple incidents. If you discover that your vehicle has been damaged or broken into after the suspects have left, please report the incident to 911 or 311 at the Minneapolis Police Precinct or through the city's online reporting system. I'm a little bit surprised that we haven't seen we haven't seen the individuals caught when you consider the number of just whether it's cameras, Ring doorbell cameras, just how so much of our society is being recorded on a daily basis that we usually catch everything on film. Now, the footage on this stuff is usually really grainy. So if the law enforcement does have footage, the individuals might be going and covering up their faces, just like what happened with Leslie Larson up in Blaine. But again, I'm a little bit curious as to why we haven't gotten further on capturing these individuals. Let's get to a few of your thoughts from the Blaster line at 612-584-4565.
Bill Glon's choice of the word pre-crime is a reference to the movie The Minority Report.
Oh, yeah.
It's not quite accurate. In pre-crime in that movie, they knew ahead of time for sure that the person would have committed a crime.
Yes, that's true. But I still appreciate Bill Glon and his reference to pre-crime. Even though in the movie Minority Report they were pre-cogs that could see the future, the terminology still fits though. Absolutely. All right, let's go here. Thank you for the call, Bob. Though I appreciate it. Good to hear from you.
Hey, John. When you were just talking a few minutes ago, saying that you were struggling to express your thoughts about the Money versus DeVille. At that point, the show went dead on my phone for a good solid minute. And then when the audio came back, you were already done.
Oh, I'm sorry that you had difficulty with the show. Apparently, Tom Emmer is having difficulty connecting with the show currently. So I'm trying to go and remedy that as well. So with the online nature, sometimes that's going to happen when it comes to how we're streaming the show. So my apologies for that. All right, we'll get to more of your thoughts here in just a moment. I want to try to get Tom Emmer on the show here. I'm going to help them out. In the meantime, just hear this quick promotion for the fall briefing coming up with Byron York, a courtesy of Center of the American Experiment podcast host, and they have a brand new episode this week. Grace Keating here on Center of the American Experiment.
Join Center of the American Experiment on Saturday, September 19th for our 2026 fall briefing featuring Byron York. Byron York is the chief political correspondent for the Washington Examiner, but you probably know him from his frequent appearances on Fox News. York will give us an update on the race to control the U.S. House and Senate, and will show how Minnesota fits into the 2026 electoral map. Will President Trump beat the odds and grow his power in Congress? Or will Democrats take over and throw Washington into gridlock? Join us at the beautiful winery at Sovereign Estate to hear York's timely message. Plus, enjoy great views, conversation, and food and drink. Tickets are going fast, and we do expect this event to sell out. Get your tickets now at americanexperiment.org/events. That's americanexperiment.org/events.
And it's a John Justice Show presented by American Experiment. I'm glad you're with us this morning. As we close in on the end of the show today, we had a couple of comments that rolled in late regarding the Target clown costume that I wanted to share with you.
Yeah, what kid is dressing up like a clown anymore? Like, I think if you see a kid dressed up as a clown, it's because their parents dressed them up like that because they thought it would be cute.
Probably, but this wasn't even a good-looking clown costume by any stretch whatsoever.
See, what we need is a celebrity death match between Jake Lang in the racist Target clown costume versus the guy from Ember Grove Heights in the Spider-Man costume. And if the clown wins, everybody gets to say the N-word again.
No.
And if Spider-Man wins, then Target goes back to selling trans kids swimsuits.
No, that's a Joe. That's a horrible idea. Out of all the ideas that could have been presented on the show today, I think you may have hit upon the worst idea presented here on the show that deserves absolutely no award whatsoever. Whew, no, in no way. No, we shouldn't be doing either of those things. Please, boy, it's a Tuesday. It is absolutely a Tuesday, and not just for the talkbacks. For me as well. It's a Tuesday. Let's go and hear from Christina.
Good morning, John.
Oh, my
I want
apologies.
to start this off by
Sorry, my apologies when that happens, by the way. I see the name on here, but obviously it's attached to somebody else's account, so clearly this is... Oh, but you know what? Who am I to go and assign gender? Maybe his name is Christina. Who am I to go and say otherwise?
saying this guy in Minneapolis who does his protest is an idiot. I'm not going to say his name. He doesn't deserve it. But the hypocrisy of the left is so glaring when you have Antifa members upset that he drove a car onto a sidewalk. Aren't these the people who take over entire city streets and blocks? Make it make sense.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Christina. You're absolutely right, and something that I didn't pick up on earlier when we were talking about it. No, you're absolutely right. For the individuals that were out there obstructing ICE every single step of the way, for the left that continues to try to go and make Operation Metro Surge that ended months ago an issue, yeah, it's pretty rich and pretty hypocritical for any of those anti-fascists to be complaining about anybody going and driving up onto a sidewalk. The Minneapolis City Council is hosting listening sessions this week to gather community feedback for a new police chief position. Interim Chief Bill Peterson has been serving since June. The listening sessions are scheduled over the course of the next week. First Precinct Inspector Bill Peterson has been serving as the interim police chief following the sudden resignation of former Chief Brian O'Hara in late May. Allegations of interference into the investigation, obviously into his conduct, was what caused him to have to go and bail from that gig. Following the listening session, a national search firm will officially post the job opening and recruit candidates. Mayor Jacob Fry will review and interview the finalists and submit a final candidate to the city council for consideration. I have no high expectations on this at all. Who would want this gig? The individuals at the Minneapolis City Council are going to sign off on this gig. I have no faith whatsoever that we're going to end up with the right individual for this job. I hope I'm wrong. The smartest thing for the Minneapolis City Council to do would be to promote somebody from within who's already serving and cares about the community within the Minneapolis Police Department. Somehow, I don't see that happening either, unfortunately. So if they're looking for an outside individual to fill this needed spot and to have to deal with the fact that we still don't have enough police officers, we're still in violation of the law in Minneapolis based off of the fact that they're constitutionally mandated to have so many police officers and we still don't, yeah, I have no expectation whatsoever that they're going to be able to get anybody worth their salt for this job. We'll certainly be keeping an eye on it here. All right, here's what I want to do. We have a few minutes left. I have one more story that I want to cover, but I also want to try to get Representative Tom Emmer on the line. So he's been having some difficulties. So I'm going to share with you a little bit of commentary that you might have missed from AmericanExperiment.org while I work for just a moment behind the scenes to see if we can't get Representative Emmer on the show. So give me just a minute. And again, here's some commentary that you might have missed from AmericanExperiment.org. And we'll be back in just a few minutes here on the John Justice Show.
Think about it. Now that school's back in session, how are Minnesota students doing? Not very well. Minnesota ACT scores fell again last year and are the lowest they've been in 10 years. In fact, fewer than half of Minnesota students can either read or do math at grade level. Think about it. We used to brag about our schools. Now we're losing to states like Mississippi. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
And now, here's commentary on the latest issues facing Minnesotans from the hosts, policy fellows, and guests of American Experiment.
Josiah Padley here at American Experiment just found that there are 11 schools in Minnesota that have 0 students doing math at grade level. Now, you might be wondering, is it just because these are, maybe underprivileged schools? They don't have the funding or the resources necessary to support these kids? No is the answer, because their average per pupil spending was $19,600, nearly $20,000 per student, which is also much higher than the state.
Support the John Justice Show. Become an advertiser. Competitive rates for both personal endorsements and standard ads are available. For more details, email john.justice@americanexperiment.org.
There's 3 things to note here on this story. Number 1, these findings came straight from data from the Minnesota Department of Education. Number 2, the 11 schools include traditional public, magnet, and charter schools. And number 3, grade level mathematics proficiency is measured by the Minnesota Comprehensive Assessment, the MCAs. I'm sure you've heard us talk about them before on this show, and they are taken by a majority of Minnesota students. Worth noting that almost every school on this list of 11 is in the Twin Cities metro area. 5 of the 11 schools have had 0 students proficient in math for at least 2 years in a row.
Think about it. Black and Hispanic students in Mississippi perform better in reading and math than Black and Hispanic students in Minnesota. And Mississippi spends thousands of dollars less per student than Minnesota. Mississippi spends less money, gets better results, and their achievement gaps are closing, while ours are getting worse. Think about it. It's time for real education reform, so Minnesota can catch up to Mississippi. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
It's the John Justice Show presented by American Experiment. Head on over to AmericanExperiment.org. You can find out about the fall briefing taking place coming up in September. I encourage you to go and do so. Also, information about how you can support the John Justice Show by dropping a donation and get yourself an embroidered John Justice Show hat. And we have new merchandise arriving very, very soon. I am pleased to welcome to the show, and we finally got him, Representative Tom Emmer. Wow. I am so sorry for the technical problems this morning, but it's great to see you this morning, my friend.
Good to see you, John. I was like, okay, so the MacBook's not working, the iPad's not working, the phone's not working, the congressman is working. Okay.
Yeah, no,
we got it.
We made it work, and thank you so much, because I got a number of things that I want to talk about with you this morning. First off, let's start about the big news yesterday coming out of the Supreme Court, ruling partly on President Donald Trump's executive orders regarding mail-in ballots. It was funny, Tom, I know you'll appreciate this. The initial response was, Supreme Court gives Trump initial victory on voter integrity. But what are your thoughts on what the Supreme Court ruled? And does this bode well for the rest of President Trump's executive order that they have not ruled on yet? Hoping his computer froze.
Yeah, the decision, people should know, issues an executive order. Obviously, election integrity is one of the #1 issues in this country. By the way, across party lines, Republicans, Democrats, others, it's like an 80% issue. Everybody wants their elections to be fair, transparent, and honest. Okay. President Trump is like, this is he's like a dog on a bone with this stuff. He is not letting it go. He wants it to be done during his term. So what does he do? On mail-in ballots, he signs an executive order months ago, at the beginning of his term almost. And what happens? You got 23 states, including ours, with Keith Ellison, the crooked attorney general that we have, and the Trump-hating attorney general, sues the federal government saying they can't do this. And what are they doing? They're saying that you should put together a list of people who are actually eligible for mail-in ballots, and you should maintain it. And the federal government should be able to check your homework. Okay, John? What they did yesterday is the Supreme Court said to Keith Ellison and his Trump-hating colleagues, nope, it's premature, not right. Trump can continue to work on his executive order. His administration can. This is not ready for prime time. Go away. And guess what? Guess what? Trump is going to continue it. But this is why our Senate has got to get off their rear ends and pass the Save America Act, John.
Yep.
Say it that way.
Something that you and I have talked about quite a bit, and I know that our audience feels the same way. Let's move over. Again, I got a number of issues to talk to you about. Before we get to Governor, I call him Governor Dim Walls, Tom. Before we get to Governor Dim Walls and his executive order on mining up in the Boundary Waters, I don't think you and I haven't had a chance to talk since the primary. So I'm curious your thoughts on the primary results and the slate of candidates that the Republicans have chosen to run in November here in Minnesota.
I think the people have spoken, John, and overwhelmingly. So if a listener to your program, John, is saying, yeah, but my candidate didn't get through the primary, and maybe that was the endorsed candidate, right? Okay, I hear what you're saying, but they didn't. And now we have the people's choices. This is all of Minnesota had a chance to weigh in, all Minnesota Republicans. You had about 400,000 turn out, John. I think Lisa Demuth is a great pick. And I think Lisa Demuth and her running mate are going to give Amy Klobuchar fits. As Jackie Emmer said to me, this is the biggest nightmare that Amy Klobuchar could have ever expected. Michelle Tafoya, we've got a real candidate. This is a candidate that is attracting national attention. Again, the other people in that race, I like them all. I don't have an issue. When the people spoke, they chose Michelle. Michelle is raising the money. And you know what, John? Michelle's candidacy may bring a ton of outside investment into Minnesota, because I think with Peggy Flanagan on the other side, that nutbag, I think you're going to see this get national attention. You're going to have a Minnesota Senate seat on the map for the first time, probably since Coleman and Franken, more than a decade ago. So I like the slate. It's the people that were chosen, and you know what? We need to get behind all of them, because I believe they can win.
Hey, were you in DC over the weekend for the IndyCar race? Were you near the event, or were you watching from afar? Because it was impressive. We talked about the past few days, and it was an amazing event. But I was curious if you were in DC at the time.
No, it was amazing. And this one I literally had to sit out. Right, I'm up on my feet again and moving. I've got with the assistance of crutches, I can walk. Hopefully in the next week or two, I'll get rid of the crutches and we'll be back in full motion. But I took the time to actually stay off my feet. And I was smiling because, I had to do this wheelchair for a little while. I should have been there for the race, man. I was getting really fast in that thing. What a race, though. I hope even the Trump haters, I hope they understand what a great thing for the District of Columbia. They should keep that going every year.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And also, speaking of agreeing, you have Grant Hochschild. He has an editorial in the Star Tribune. I'm a rural Democrat, he writes. Here's why I disagree with Walz and his executive order on mining. I have a separate story here, Representative Tom Emmer. Walz' executive order to restrict mining near boundary waters faces bipartisan backlash. Before I get your view on what, again, my words, Dim Walz did here with this, I'm curious, what do you think his motivation was? Was this to take it off the table for Amy Klobuchar? Was he appealing to special interest groups? It just seems like a very bizarre, unpopular move from a lame duck governor, even for Governor Dim Walz. Why do you think he did this?
Well, first off, you brought up the worst newspaper. John, there are better ways to hurt yourself. Stop reading that stupid thing.
Other people do, though, Tom. Other people do. And I'm here to counter that nonsense.
Think about it. There's 5.7 million people in this state. Less than 200,000 even look at that piece of garbage. And you know what? It's going to get smaller and smaller. Within the next 4 or 5 years, if they're still alive, and I hope they're not, they're going to have about 30,000 people max reading that worthless political rag. But when it comes to your question, I call him the lame duck loser. This was spiteful, John. Spiteful. That's all it is. Think about this. Tina Smith and Peggy Flanagan engineered this whole thing to put Peggy Flanagan in position to replace her friend Tina Smith. I don't think people recognize that those two had dinner the night before the announcement. When Tina made the announcement the next day at midday, within minutes, Peggy Flanagan's announcement, I'm running, was out there. They circled the wagons around Peggy Flanagan, they being the new Marxist Socialist Anarchist Party of America here in Minnesota, circled the wagons around this Minneapolis extremist within hours. And guess why they did it, John? They did it because they don't like Tim Walz. And they didn't want Tim Walz to think that he would be the heir apparent. And you know what? Then Tim said he was going to run for governor, and it's so corrupt and he's so incompetent, he couldn't even do that. So they made him get out of the way for Amy Klobuchar. So why do you think he did it, John? He's a spiteful little baby who has nowhere to go. He's not competent to run a buffet, okay? This guy shouldn't be in charge of anything. And so what does he do? He goes after the boundary waters and now puts the Democrat candidates like Amy Klobuchar in the worst. But not only is it a stupid decision because it goes against all the science, it actually empowers the Communist Party of China. Oh, well, maybe that's it. His friends over in Asia. But I think it's just spite. He did it out of spite to put Amy in a bad place and everybody else.
Well, it expires 90 days after he leaves office. What do you think the future of the order is going to be? And especially with this, there's bipartisan backlash on this. So what do you think the inevitable end of this order will be once Walz is out of office?
I think it's done. I mean, look, the Obama administration did this to Rick Nolan, a mining-friendly Democrat in northern Minnesota. They did it to him 2 hours before they left office. They didn't even tell him they were going to try and shut it down. It took us working with President Trump and difficult, even though they didn't go as far. I would Trump opened it up again, and here we go. This is the Minneapolis liberals, left-wing nutbags that don't believe you and I should ever be able to go in and cut a tree down. It's these people who are telling all of northern Minnesota, by the way, a huge number of working men and women, union jobs that they claim they support. They're telling him your way of life is no good. It's not going to survive, John. And today's mining we have the most strict, stringent environmental laws in the world. And Minnesota even aspires for greater. So the idea that we would ever let mining harm the boundary waters is ludicrous. And I would just add, go up to northern Minnesota if you're not familiar with mining. Look at what is left after the iron ore mining that took place for decades leading into the 70s. John, where they carved out the earth it filled with water. You now have lakes with some of the cleanest water in the world. So it's a ridiculous order. When it goes away, just like Tim Walz, we'll never remember it.
Representative Tom Emmer, continued good luck in your recovery. I'm glad everything went well. You clearly need to get back on your feet because you got a lot of energy to get out there. There's no doubt about that. So, thank you for weathering the technical problems that we experienced this morning. But it was great to hear from you. Glad that we got you on, and I look forward to hopefully talking with you again next week.
I hope so too, and we'll have a little more time.
Thank you so much. Great to speak with you this morning. Again, Representative Tom Emmer here on the show. Always great to talk with Tom. And with that, we wrap up the show for a Tuesday. Thank you so much to everybody who has participated in the show this morning. If you missed any portion of today's broadcast, remember you can always get caught up on the show via the podcasts up on the MixLR app or also across our social media platforms. You can leave a blast at any point during the day. Once the show is over at 612-584-4565, email me, john.justice@americanexperiment.org. Thank you so much for hanging out this morning. We'll talk to you guys again tomorrow starting at 6 a.m. Have yourself a fantastic Tuesday, and I'll talk to you then. Bye.
Static waves at dawn, a voice that lingers when night is gone. Twin cities hum with stories spun. John Justice rides the rising sun.